Okay. In 3, 2. Gather around, freaks. It's Thursday night again, and look around, look around, look around. It's time to go to town and gather around the internet fire and the internet radio because it's time for another spine-tingling episode of Hey, did you hey, did you see this one?
Once upon a time, movie magic was dwindling, and things were changing. And this month, Stephen Waters and Hey, did you see this one? Would like to take you back there. Take you on a trip down memory lane to revisit some of their favorite movies from the late 1900s. From cult classics to box office hits, they'll explore the mysticism of this iconic era of film history. Tune in to relive the magic of the previous century in the nostalgic 90s.
Blood! Pizza, flogging, flying, pain!
Hey, don't open that! It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know!
Seems okay.
Oh, hi, it's us again. It's us. Hey, did you see this one? It's episode 137. And we're wrapping up Steve's birthday month, the nostalgic 90s. And
what a great month of movies it was.
It was
all of them awesome.
I had a great time doing this month. Next month is going to be great as well, and the month after and the month previous to this month, which was my birthday month, and every month on Hey Did You See This One is a great month. So everybody subscribe and look at us while we talk. I would like to please welcome back to the show for what I believe is the 6th time,
maybe
6th time,
7.
Please welcome back to the show Cass Hodgins.
Hello.
Cassandra Hodgins, welcome back to the show. You've been on the show many times. We've talked about many movies together. We watched this film last night. Oh, there you go.
Sorry,
double round of applause. I will take it. Thank you.
You got it, Pontiac. Welcome back to the show. As I was saying, you have been on the show many times now, and you are a veteran. And we're gonna have a great time. Last night we watched the show live and in person together, the three of us. We got a little buck wild, and we're all hurting today.
Just a normal Wednesday.
We all had busy days that are stupid jobs too. Like I was expecting to have like a real chill day in the office, and then I just got slammed. Steve, you had like a whole bunch of work to do.
Yeah, I had to talk into the microphone all day, going. Turkey was hit by a terrifying earthquake. That was my and looking up how to say Turkish names. I was like, I don't know how to say this.
Oh, I thought you meant an actual turkey. I was like, it's turkey time.
Yeah, it's turkey time in Turkey.
It's turkey time.
It was actually a pretty devastating story.
Oh,
a lot of people died.
Oh,
yeah.
Natural disasters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. So, and Cass was busy too, I presume. If it looks like we all have bags under our eyes, it's because we do from that very fun time. I'm talking about myself mainly. You guys look great. But so welcome back to the show, Cass. We are, of course, talking about Hook. It's episode 137, season 2, episode 37. can also be considered, but we're gonna get right into it because this week a lot of people got the movie right. So this is, hey, did you guess that one?
Oh.
Wow.
Hey,
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
congratulations, folks! You got the answer right this week.
You did it.
At Abe from Instagram. Not too bad for a cat dad is his handle. He wanted to say, just read the lyrics to Weird Al's Albuquerque. I'm not going to do that. The song's like 11 minutes long. And then he said, nah, my message would be to not be a paramecium brain. So that's pretty good.
Solid.
Yeah, Cass, welcome to StreamYard, where Steve's in control of the sounds now.
I'm so excited. I'm ready.
It's good shiz. John Lashinsky, notable podcaster on the Sonar Network, where friend of the show, Michael Mongiardi, is also from, and he wanted to let everybody know that the Canadian Podcast Awards are coming up. Join the Canadian Podcast Awards and celebrate the best in podcasting from across the country. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting out, this is your chance to gain recognition for your hard work and creativity. Submit your podcast, vote for your favorites, and be a part of Canada's vibrant podcasting community. Don't miss out on the opportunity to shine. And visit canpodawards.ca to get involved today. So I'm going to submit us, and we're going to win every category because we're the greatest.
We're going to win the award for longest podcast.
Yeah. It's the world's longest podcast.
Yeah.
Gordon McDonald once again came through and wanted to say, my message is Rufio, Rufio, Rufio. Jessica Fisher wanted to say, if Spielberg is somehow watching, be less embarrassed by this movie, which I've been telling everybody all week. That's kind of our thesis for this this whole episode, because the three of us love this film. Spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
B. Dolly, who's on the show next month and has been on the show before, she just wanted to say that she gets off on the false sense of superiority that she can recognize a zoomed in movie poster every week. So no need for a shout out. I shouted you out anyway. A couple people just got it with no note. There was the Maz's Musing podcast and Allison Chains, local celebrity and drag performer Allison Chains. I asked them what they wanted to say and they never responded, so I got big legged. Clearly,
I'll respond to you next week.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle Mack, aka Black Rook, noted Halifax rapper, just wanted to put somebody in the boo box.
Not the boo box.
Yeah, which is a nightmare zone. Stu Hayward, friend of the show, can you plug my Instagram and TikTok? He's Stuart Anthony on those, I believe. He also wanted to say that there's pint-sized comedy every Tuesday at Celtic Corner in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Mike Smith, and welcome. Movies by Doug got it again. He said, watch Baby Reindeer, which I can actually agree with.
Oh, it's so good.
Trigger warning, it's fucked.
It's messed up, but it's very well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you've got trauma in your life, prepare to revisit it.
Yes. Pat King, a friend of mine from way back, that he wanted to say that Rufio is the voice of Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I hope it blows at least one mind like it did mine all those years ago. Ouch, there was that a ghost podcast? Still don't give bears cocaine. That was a callback from another episode where they got it right and said don't give bears cocaine. I believe it was for The Edge a couple weeks ago. Everybody was
also
like,
just so bad for them. Like, don't do that. They don't need
it's
that.
true. It's true. Two more just guesses correct. John Killaway and Jeff Harrison. And finally, John Draper wanted to say, hey brother, my message would be to watch this movie because it's one of the best. For a plug, he wanted me to shout out David Say Photography 1 on Instagram. And if anyone's looking for a photographer for headshots, editorials, events, send him a message and he'd love to make your vision come to life. So that's all the shout outs for this week. The people who got it correct, that's a lot. It's a pretty notorious movie. Like it has a 29 on Rotten Tomatoes, but I feel like everybody who guessed it correct knew it immediately, and all had very nice things to say about it. Just like we're going to.
Also, that 29% is based on like I think critic reviews of the era now.
Yeah,
so
it's the tomato meter part, not the critic meter.
Yeah, like this movie wasn't made for like 35-year-old men in 1991. It was made for 5-year-olds in 1991.
That's right.
And their parents who maybe needed to watch it as well and learn some lessons.
Yeah. Also, this is probably the reason so many people probably got this right is because so many people probably had this sitting on a movie shelf in their childhood and just, immediately recognized it as something that was in their home.
Just there. Yeah. I had that situation too. Every time you go to a sleepover, there's nothing else to watch. People would just put Hook on, as I recall when I was a kid, because everybody just owned this on VHS.
I put it on because I wanted to watch it, not because there was nothing else to watch.
Well, I mean,
you son of a bitch.
You warned me you were going to be punchy. Okay, well, I think it's time for a call to action. If you're watching this now or if you're watching it later, please follow us on all social media. You can pretty much find us everywhere at Hey, Did You See This One? Please just give a like or a follow or leave a comment. It helps us out. We're now on so many different social medias simultaneously that I want to get us out there, cast as wide a net as possible. I don't think it hurts to just be live on multiple platforms just to get more eyes on the product. We're live on Kick. We're live on Instagram. We're live on Twitch, which is our primary home. We're live on Facebook and my personal Facebook and YouTube as well. So if you're watching on one of those platforms, just give us a like or a follow. Also, shout out to White Bat Audio, who provides the music in that opening little 10-minute chat that we have. I was here alone today.
I was figuring out technology. You switched it all up on me. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I haven't even eaten. I was working right up until the last second.
Oh, no.
That's fair.
You're both me. Tummy's just rumbling.
Yeah, I ordered food as well, but it has not arrived, so I don't know when it's gonna get here or if it's gonna get here. Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with Hook. Let's talk about
okay, well, it's time for a brief history.
Whoa! A brief history.
Around here, it is a time-honored tradition to give out the first opportunity to give the brief history. What?
You're turning into Dracula.
Yes. Cass, why don't you give us your brief history with Hook, please?
Yeah, you got it. It's actually really brief because I have seen this movie so many times. I don't remember the first time I saw it. It all becomes a blur, but I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was with my cousins because they were always showing me the coolest things, and they were a little bit older than me as well. So it was introduced to me immediately. My brain was opened. All of my childhood imagination was just completely put into this movie. I had Hook dreams for forever where I was flying in Neverland and living my best life. But yeah, I love this movie. Every single time I see it, I am just filled with joy. So that's it.
Awesome.
Easy peasy.
How about you, Steve Areno?
I saw this movie in theater when I was a 4-year-old boy. Somehow I retained it, and then it was gifted to me at some point for Christmas, and watched it 1 million times over and over. It was one of those ones that was really worn out because I watched it too much. But yeah, I think my dad took me to see this. My sister would have been born, but very, very young. So I think it was just like, I'll take the boy, you take care of the girl. And it went on to become one of my favorite movies of my childhood, which is why I'm always shocked to hear that people hate this movie. And people that I know, it's not one of those things where it's like, it's been said on the internet that this movie's bad by critics. It's like, no, I know real people in real life who are like, that movie, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. And I must have been outside the pocket of the age gap or saw it too late in life to appreciate it because I don't get the appeal. And I'm like, what do you mean? Look at that matte painting. Look at the hook. Look at the hook. That's my brief history.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much the same. I saw it for the first time so long ago that I can't even. Wow, this new viewer was 21 when the movie came out.
Whoa! I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, I was 6 years old.
Whoa!
It was so long ago that I don't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. Actually, I do remember watching it, like I was saying earlier, at like sleepovers and stuff all the time as a kid. It kind of it's weird to hear now. It was brought to my attention by Steve on this very show about a year, maybe 2 years ago, that Hook actually isn't this this huge phenomenon that every single person our age loved. There are people that don't like it, and it was critically panned. And Steven Spielberg is actually embarrassed by this thing, which
Insane.
sucks because it holds up from a story standpoint. It holds up from a special effects standpoint. It's a well-made film, and it feels like you're watching. We talked about this a lot last night, where it feels like you're watching a live-action like Broadway play.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into why as we talk about the show, but so we talk about the movie. But as far as my brief history, that's pretty much it. I've seen this movie probably 15 times over the years, which is not even close to the amount of times that other people, mainly the two people on this show,
I've watched it 15 times in the year 2024.
Yeah. I watched it 15 times today. I put it on 15 screens.
I think I watched it twice this year with you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Oh, embarrassing. Steven Spielberg's embarrassed of this movie. I'm embarrassed of how often I watched this movie.
It was definitely put on after watching a movie with you at your place as well. So I've seen it. I saw the first half of it very recently as well. I forgot that it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like, it's pretty long.
For a kids movie, it's long, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't have any problem with the length of it as a kid. You know, the reason kids movies are so short is because kids are dumb and can't pay attention for that long, right? But Spielberg was like, no, let's make it almost 3 hours.
Let's make an epic, like a pirate epic sequel to Peter Pan. And it's like, if I haven't seen Peter Pan, do I need to see Peter Pan before I see Hook? It's like, no.
I mean, this is a sequel to Peter Pan lore. It's not a sequel to the animated movie Peter Pan. It almost kind of like ignores that and is just like, no, like, we're gonna go for the literature and use the book as a
right
point rather than Disney movie. Though a lot of the iconography of the children's movie is sprinkled throughout.
It's like kind of hinted at or like homage to, but it's not the main
exactly, because this isn't a Disney movie, so they don't have the rights to use that visual iconography. So stuff like Tinkerbell, like, for example, they just redesigned her entire look. And sorry, there's an ambulance coming because I'm
coming to get you
from watching Hook too much. They're like, we gotta save him from himself.
The pervert police are coming because you've been watching too much Hook.
Yeah.
Don't feel old, science fiction remnant. You are valued. You are valued.
You are valued.
You are valued.
Yeah. It's a safe space.
Everybody's allowed to watch the show.
It's so good.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
We need more. We need more Gen Xers to come through.
Gentle Gen Xers. So why don't we just transition right into the director of this movie?
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit.
Sound. Speed. Action!
This film is directed by a little auteur director. You may have heard of him, called Steven Spielberg.
Spielbergo.
And it was written by J.M. Barrie, James V. Hart, and Nick Castle, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the director of this film is probably one of the most known directors.
Yeah, he's definitely, I think that he's probably the most well-known director on planet Earth in terms of, like, everybody knows who he is. Most people know what he looks like. Like, if you were to say Steven Spielberg, you're like, oh yeah, he wears a hat all the time, and he's kind of like, short. I think he's short, right? Gray hair now. He used to have darker hair. I don't know. But yeah, you can picture what he looks like. I know what he looks like. I'm just doing a bad job of describing him. But he also is, the king of Hollywood in a lot of ways. He's connected to so many projects, even if he isn't directing something. If there's a movie from your childhood, if you're born between the years 1980 and 2000, there's probably a movie that is connected to your childhood that you love that he had something to do with. Not just the movies that he made, but movies that he produced, movies that he executive produced, just funded things because he's like, I think that this will do well, so I'll just support it.
And he also sort of ushered in a lot of different like eras of film because of that, you know, like,
well, yeah, they call him like the father of the modern blockbuster, right? Like Jaws basically changed the way that movies work in cinema and how people react to them, and what your goal is when you're making a movie was completely changed by the advent of movies like Jaws, which, you know, become blockbusters, which is a term that wasn't used before he existed as a director.
Right. Basically, every one of his movies is like a classic, like well-known film. The only stuff that I'm not really recognizing on his IMDb is like his TV work. But if you look at it, it changes. Jaws comes out, and then every movie after that is like a part of your childhood, kind of.
E.T. and
yeah, like he does Jaws, and then Close Encounters, and then like, you know, 1941, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., et cetera, like the list goes on. And as Steve was saying, like he's still around, he's still making stuff. He most notably recently worked on the Ready Player One film and the West Side Story like remake. So he's been working like this whole time.
Yeah. He even started making video games and stuff in the early 2000s because he was like, this is the next big thing in entertainment. He tried his hand at it. I don't think he really enjoyed it as much as movies. He was like, this is too much work, and it's not really working out the way that I thought it would. But, you know, he had been working for years and years before Jaws too, right? Like Jaws wasn't, it was like, I guess the thing that made him a household name was Jaws. But before that, he was doing tons of TV. And after that, yeah, like you're saying, everything, you can pretty much look at his filmography and you've probably either heard of or seen everything in it. And the range of which he works is wild too. He has stuff that is, you know, as serious as Schindler's List, and things that are as fun as like Jurassic World. But then he makes movies that
not Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, he makes movies that are for all audiences, and he's good at making all of them. You know, you'll see somebody like, I feel like I bring this director up a lot, but I don't know why. Zack Snyder, where his primary audience is, you know, males,
incels,
yeah, men. But then he'll try and do a kids movie, and like, you're like, oh, this kind of works, but the tone is really not working here. It's because it's the guy who directed Sucker Punch, directed The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't even really dislike The Owls of Ga'Hoole, to be honest. And when I saw it, I was like, Zack Snyder should do more of this kind of stuff, because he's able to go over the top with his visual elements, and he's really good at painting a picture visually. I think he's an amazing cinematographer and director of photography, but I just don't think that his original concepts are all that well written a lot of the time.
I'm an idiot. I kind of liked Sucker Punch when it came out because it reminded me of like a kind of like a Final Fantasy sort of a premise. That's the first time I've mentioned Final Fantasy in a while, so I'm allowed. Another director that I would say is in this sort of realm would be like a Martin Scorsese. Obviously, he doesn't do a lot of like high fantasy or sci-fi, but he is another well-known director who has sort of just been making hit after hit.
Yeah, I mean,
for a similar stretch of time.
Martin Scorsese, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, those guys were all like friends in film school. You know, they came up together and they supported each other, and that's why all of them are so well known, and why their movies are so well known. They had this. A lot of it had to do with the timing, because film studios were passing hands. They were, you know, people who were running the studios were retiring and handing it over to new people, and business people were coming in rather than film people. So like the original run of movie studio ownership was all people who loved cinema. It was then transferred to people who didn't know anything about cinema. So they're like, well, maybe maybe what we should do is hire all of these young directors straight out of film school, because they'll know what they're doing and they'll have the passion, and they can take care of that stuff while we take care of the business end of things. And, you know, those guys have exploded, and obviously it was a very wise choice. There's a reason that most of their movies are still having sequels and crazy shit being made up until this day from their brain children. But, you know, we're now in a spot where the ownership is still being passed over to people who only think about the money And that's not to say that every movie that comes out now is just a cash grab piece of shit, but there are lots of them. There are lots of cash grabby pieces of shit that come out on a daily basis, which is sad. But there is some hope coming. So they're starting to to realize that putting $500 million budgets onto things is not the wisest investment when you're not pulling in those numbers anymore. So they're like, well, maybe we should make more movies for cheaper and give people a bite at the apple, so to speak. Let these new directors make films that they're passionate about.
There's a bit of a shift happening right now where the big nobody's going to the theater anymore. So the big blockbusters, even if they're like Furiosa should have done really well. And it came out Memorial Weekend. It's traditionally a prime opportunity for a movie like that to just do gangbusters, and it fell on its face because of people not really going to theaters anymore, and it's kind of affecting it. But the thing is, something that was I was watching that Red Letter Media Half in the Bag year-end catch up, and Mike on that show made a good point. That was like these smaller directors it's like a new 70s or 80s where these smaller directors are putting out these weird ass movies again. So we're getting the big blockbusters. It's all multiverse franchises, like it's all the same old shit you've seen for the last decade. And the studios are going to start to realize again that we need to bring these weird movies back into the theater to sort of switch it up. So I'm hopeful that we're not just going to only be seeing remakes and Marvel movies in the next 10 years. But also we could literally see the collapse of the theater industry, which, would be heartbreaking to see, but it might open up the doors for smaller, like places like the Alamo Drafthouse and smaller theaters to kind of thrive again because they can show these weird little indie flicks. Now, Steven Spielberg isn't the kind of director that makes a small indie flick. He puts out huge movies.
You're telling me that Ready Player One isn't a small indie film?
The small indie feature, Ready Player One. But it would be interesting to see Steven Spielberg in the kind of like the twilight of his career to kind of readjust and start funding or helping out with smaller directors to make slightly bigger things to put in theater, because people are just bored of Marvel and superheroes and remakes and sequels, so hopefully there's
that like money does not make a film. Money does not make anything good. You can have no budget at all, and as long as you have an incredible story and someone behind the camera being able to capture it and put it towards an audience so they can fully get involved, like transported into it, you could do it like with nothing, like with a black stage and like, I don't know, some lights. That's it. And thankfully with Spielberg, especially for Hook and all of his other movies, is that he did have the budget. So he was like, I still have a really cool brain that wants to tell a story. And now I have all these crazy set pieces and amazing actors and all these little extras. But even at the end of the day, the story is good.
Yeah. And we brought this up. We've brought this up every year since we started doing John Carpenter month. But John Carpenter was one of those directors that he thrived when he had a smaller budget, and when he would get the bloated budgets, it affected the quality of the movie and actually ended up turning out something worse, because he's like, oh, I have all this crazy money now, let's do this stuff that doesn't really support the story, but it'll just because it looks cool. Yeah,
and you're like, oh, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't feel any like emotion looking at something that looks cool. I'm like, that looks cool, and then I forget about it, and that's it.
Yeah, let's make an extended 3.5-minute CGI underwater sequence at the beginning of Escape from New York or LA. And you're like, this is bad. This is bad, John. What have you done? Anyway,
I just as one last little note here. We did a month of movies that sort of took over the world, like through advertising and stuff. Remember we did Flintstones and the Dragon movie and that. This was one of those movies. This had action figures. This had advertising everywhere you went. It had like fast food toys, as I mentioned, and it's really interesting that more people don't put it in that category of beloved because it is a really good, like just undeniably a good movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not just blinded by nostalgia. I can't figure out what happened. Like even critically, like I don't know what. Like it's a well-made film. It's a good story. Like I don't know why the critics hated it, and why Steven Spielberg himself is like, I don't like that movie. But weren't you saying, Steve, or maybe Cass, yesterday that Steven Spielberg is sort of like, I also haven't seen this movie. Like haven't rewatched it in.
Yeah,
years,
I'm not sure how old the clip was that I had seen. I think he was on a podcast or something talking about it. It was an interview of some sort, but it was just the audio, so I'm not sure what the source was. But he was talking about how he has over, I think, 60 movies or something. He's got a lot.
Yeah, it's like 58 or something.
And he says he doesn't often rewatch his movies, not because he doesn't like them, but because he wants to see stuff that he didn't work on for 2 years. He's like, I know the movie, I made it. And then he said, but there is one movie that I would maybe like to revisit, and that's Hook, because that movie didn't work for me and it didn't work for audiences, and I don't really like it. But I would like to go back and rewatch it and see if there are things about that movie that I do like. And I would like to hear a follow-up to that interview, because I would like to know if he did watch it and see if there is anything that he can find to like about it, because to me it's a mystery, and I haven't really gone down the rabbit hole of looking into all of the criticisms this movie received, because I'm not interested in learning about that, because I like the movie, and it doesn't matter what anyone's opinion is on how bad it is. I love it. So I don't really need to hear about somebody saying that the sets looked cheesy or that the story doesn't make any sense.
They don't know nothing.
Yeah, I think this movie definitely has issues that don't work for me, and I know the exact moments they are, because since I was a childhood, I would kind of zone out in those moments. And even yesterday, when those moments were happening while we were watching the movie, that's when I would turn to you guys and start talking, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it, Peter. I'm doing it.
But I will say that this is going to be a positive discussion, for the most part. There for me, Steve, you guys know a bit more about the technical element of the movie, but for me, just as a baseline, like I have a good time every time I watch this, and I always have. And like I've said a couple times, and I'll continue to say, I don't the way that some people don't get this movie, I don't get the hate for this movie. So do you guys want to look at the beautiful body of the episode?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
This is the body of the episode. It is sort of the podcast of it all. This is, hey, did you see this one? I'm going to run through sort of the beats of the movie, and we're going to just chat about it at will. Feel free to say whatever you'd like at any time. But just to keep the kind of the show on the rails, I'm going to just go kind of beat by beat. The movie opens up with a recap of the story of Peter Pan, but in a kid's play form. Robin Williams' character Peter Panis? What's this?
Panning.
Panning, right? Peter Panning.
Peter Penis.
Watching it. Peter Penis. He's watching it. He's he's some sort of day trader, lawyer, businessman guy.
He's Mr. Business, is what he is.
He's a businessman, and he's on the phone trying to just sell land or something, and the wife is all pissed, and his kids are literally on stage performing, and he couldn't care less, because he's the stereotypical like but work before family guy. I'll have family time when I'm dead.
He's not as bad as that. He is bad for sure, but he doesn't see the error of his ways. That's kind of the whole point of him going to Neverland, is for him to understand what is important in life. And at this point, he considers the deal more important than sitting and watching his daughter perform Peter Pan the play, which is a funny thing to think about. Like Peter Pan is watching Peter Pan the play.
He's like, I'm bored again.
Being like, I don't need to.
Why do I feel such a weird connection to this, and yet I'm so bored?
But he doesn't feel a connection to it at all. That's why it's weird. He feels a connection to his thigh, which is his phone vibrating in his pocket, and he answers it. He's got to go into work the next day, which he wasn't supposed to do, because he's supposed to go to his son's baseball game. His son, who's sitting right next to him and hearing the entire conversation he's having on the phone. And he makes the first of many promises that he breaks in this movie. And sorry, my voice. And he says the line that he repeats over and over, which is, I'll be there next I'll be there tomorrow. We'll make it an early meeting. My word is my bond.
My word
And
is
Jack,
my bond.
you can tell Jack believes him. Jack has his baseball. He's looking at it like.
I like that he brought it to the theater too.
He
He's like,
loves
I'm so
baseball.
excited for this game tomorrow. It's gonna be the best.
He's one of those little fucking shitty kids that I hated when I was growing up, which is like the kids, you know how kids like always connect something to their identity. Like I'm the baseball kid. Oh my God, fuck off.
And what's strange about this family too is like the story of Peter Pan seems to be like almost a myth or a legend within their family. I don't think they really bring up the fact that Peter Pan is could possibly be the Peter Pan from Legend, but it is.
There's an implication that he inspired the story through Wendy, because later on when they go to England, Maggie goes, or is that her name? Maggie
Smith. Oh, you mean the kid?
The little girl.
Maggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Maggie.
Yeah.
Would have been very confusing on Sunday.
Maggie goes up to Maggie and says, Grandma Wendy, I played you in a play.
Yeah.
So she is supposed to be the Wendy from the storybook, which I don't know if that makes sense chronologically as to when Peter Pan was written and how old this lady is supposed to be in 1991, but maybe she's supposed to be 120 years old or something.
Or she's
pretty old.
I clocked her at like 85 maybe. Maggie Smith looks older in this movie than she does now, like 30 years later, which was interesting, but it's actually Peter Banning. It's not Panning. Which the whole movie I'm like, dude, it's in your name, but Banning.
It's
like,
Banning?
Banning. Yeah.
Oh, I always thought it was panning. Maybe I just heard it that way.
It makes sense that it would be panning. Yeah, exactly.
Like it has to be panning.
So, so they watch the play, then we get that scene of
I've seen this movie 100 times.
At least.
And I did not know his name was Peter Banning. I thought it was Peter Panning.
Do you never watch it with subtitles?
I did not watch it with subtitles.
That's why.
You gotta put those millennial subtitles on. Not for the.
I have them on now, but
hearing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, we then have a fun sort of broken scene where it's cutting back and forth between Peter at work, where he's clearly the biggest douchebag alive.
They love
Everybody
him.
loves him there. They're like, oh.
They have.
But like the whole work, the work culture is just like that toxic sort of like 80s business. Yeah,
they have sort of a American Psycho-esque moment, like the business cards almost moment with the cell phones, where they have these fucking dumb holsters, which like nowadays when you see a person with their phone on their belt, it's like that's boomer behavior. But back then, you put it on your little holster, you got your flip phone. These style phones,
well, they're boomers. They would be boomers at this point.
Exactly. They'd be like literally 70, and
it's like because they think they're cool. They think they're they're rich. They trade. They're businessmen. They have lots of money. So they're cowboys. So they wear their phones like they're guns, and they have a duel in the hallway.
And they have like a duel.
Yeah. The duel instead of shooting each other is answering your phone quickly.
It's also just heartbreaking too to see like Peter in that moment. Thank you. Peter in that moment having fun with his coworkers, because you're like, why can't you give this to your kids? Like clearly you're capable of having fun, even if it's fake, even if it's put on. Like you still did it. You can't even fake it for your kids for like half a second. Like that's so sad.
He's Mr. Serious Dad too. You don't really see he's kind of like the dad who's kind of like, oh no, don't do that. That's dangerous. Like about everything, right? Instead of being like, oh, let's have some fun. Which, we see it at the end. So, we know he's a changed man. But up until it, he's like the driest dad on planet Earth, where it's like he leaves his fun charisma at the office because he uses it for work. But when he's at home, he's like, I have to be the father.
Also, did you notice? I know that you noticed this because we were watching it live together, but
I was there.
Jack's team is the Blue Jays, and we are all, of course, living in Toronto. I'm not necessarily from here, but I have been here for a decade. You guys are from here, I think.
No.
You're not from here?
No. I moved here like 11 years ago. I don't know math, something like that. But I've been here for a while.
So we don't really have a connection to that way. Steve grew up in Brampton, so a little bit more. little bit closer. But it was funny to see the Blue Jays losing in this movie in 1991.
Again?
The real,
no, I'm just
but the real Blue Jays in
do well.
1991 were fucking killing it. The Blue Jays
on
used to
fire.
win like every season in the early 90s. So I thought that was funny. But he loses the game. He's all bummed out his dad's not there. And then they're like on the airplane, we're going to London, and the dad is when he's leaving the office, he's like the same thing that I do when I fly, because I hate going on airplanes, but he's basically like, if it's my time, it's my time. And they're like, it's an airplane ride, like you're gonna be fine. They're like, well,
it's like, oh my god, it might be my time. Oh god,
exactly.
Don't put me on the plane.
And then they got to them on the plane, and he's white knuckling it, and Jack is bouncing a baseball off the ceiling.
Oh my god, the picture that Maggie shows him of like the plane on fire.
Yeah.
Sharks
and also
in the
this
water.
plane, I don't know if you guys remember what planes were like back then, but they were all like recommissioned planes from when you could still smoke on them, and it's very well represented in this movie because the walls are all weird and grimy, and the seats are all like, the seats look like an old bus.
Yeah,
they're not too much better now, but like
it's even kind of hazy in there, which I'm like,
yeah,
was someone smoking on this plane? Like, was this a smoking?
It was someone on
okay
set.
plane? Yeah,
the boom guy was like, "Sorry guys,
hanging out his mouth."
I'm good.
Yeah, we do the drawing is very cute and funny. She's showing a picture of the plane crashing, which obviously he's terrified is going to happen. But all of the family members are floating down to safety with parachutes on, except for him, who is plummeting into the ocean where there are sharks waiting. Yeah. It's a very funny picture, but she didn't draw the picture. Jack drew the picture, and so he has to go talk to Jack about it. And he's like, "Where was my parachute, Jack? Why didn't I have a parachute, Jackie?" And he's basically like, "Yes, motherfucker. Yeah, you didn't come to my baseball game, so I want you to die being torn apart by sharks."
Also, like is that not an ultimate like dramatic kid move? They're like, that's it. No forgiveness.
His mom doesn't even be like, "Well, that wasn't very nice." She's just like, "He's pissed, man. You got to go talk to him."
I deserve that one.
So just as a small interjection, a quick show note. When we're live on certain platforms, it doesn't automatically go to our chat here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna copy and paste it with their username. And Arjun Arjun, friend of the show and former guest of the show, is actually blowing it up on Instagram right now. So just gonna put those in the chat while we chat about it. So just in case you're like, what is this now?
Multitasking. I like it.
I'm producing. I'm the producer. I do really like that picture, and I love the fact that Jack has no fucks to give about his dad being afraid, and he's
pushing those buttons.
Oh, big time, because he's so pissed and he's so negative, and already like this kid's 10 years old and he's already so spiteful towards his dad, and he's trying to tell his dad the whole time that like all you have to do is not be so like distant. And
like
weird.
Literally just hang out with me. That's all I'm asking for. And that's too much. It's hurtful as a kid.
He's also doing the most annoying thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Which is throwing his baseball at the ceiling.
And the window.
And hitting it on the window and being like, it's double layered. You can't break it.
It's double layered. He just smashes it against the window, and Peter Banning's freaking the fuck out.
I will say, if I was ever on a plane and somebody's kid did that near me, I would also lose it. Yeah. I'd be like, absolutely not. You're going to plane jail, and you're not allowed out until we land.
Somebody duct tape that kid to his chair. Yeah. But there are people when he bangs on the window like that. There's people in the deep distant background who are like, "What the fuck?" Like they look frightened as well.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be alone. And then he once again throws it at the ceiling, and a bunch of oxygen masks fall down. When Peter asks him, like, "When are you going to stop acting like a child?" And he's like, "I am a child.
I'm 10."
Dad. Yeah.
Which is
also, I love the way he delivers that line.
Yeah.
Like, what a kid actor, man. He crushed it.
It was a really good performance.
Charlie Korsmo is the kid's name.
Yeah, he's in a few other things around this time, but he didn't really do a ton after that, I believe.
No, he was in a movie this year, actually.
Whoa,
he hadn't
really?
worked in a long time. He didn't work for like 10 years from the 80s to 2018. And he's the kid in What About Bob? and he's the kid. He's Kid in Dick Tracy, most notably.
Yes,
and he's in Can't Hardly Wait as well.
Yeah, he's the one who yells, "Attention, everyone! I don't want to alarm you, but the beer has gone bad." And everyone's like, "What?" It's just
alarming.
Beer. Yeah.
Is this true? Is this true? What Arjun is saying about you, Steve? You only know cricket since you're from Brampton.
I think the implication is that a lot of Indian people live in Brampton and like cricket. I think that's what Arjun's implication is. Yeah, it's true, Arjun. You're right. So they end up at Aunt Maggie's house. She's an aunt. Grandma Maggie. No, it's Wendy. Grandma Wendy. And it's snowing. There's some weird cheap digital snow that they're using, and I was like, "Whoa, Spielberg! What the heck? Maybe this is where you lost a couple percentage points." But then we cut to this like amazing entrance to an English home, an English townhome.
Beautiful.
And I'm not sure if it's a set or not, or if it's a real location, but if it is a set, it looks really good. But it also looks magical, like there's a thing about that old style London living that, immediately evokes thought of a storybook, because it's where most storybooks and fairy tales were written in the 1800s.
And it also feels like the Darling home, like in the animated movie, even though, again, we're not doing the animated, but you're like, that looks like the house, like that's the neighborhood that I saw in Disney. That's cool.
And
they just wanted to, on top of that, mention that like it also kind of looked like a New York borough outside, but once you go into the house, once you go inside the house, I have these like weird, so I've got a couple weird like things about my childhood, like weird like sort of memories that give me the ick a little bit, and it's wood paneling.
I love wood paneling.
Wood paneling gives me the ick. We were talking about that last night a little bit, and also these Victorian looking, but stuck in the late 70s, up to the mid 80s, sort of kitschy, just shit everywhere, pastel colors. Every room has like a million like shelves with all kinds of little like knickknacks. It's Christmas time motif, so there's just like there's just like snow globes everywhere, like that kind of vibe.
Listen, this is what my mom's place looks like
it's also Christmas. Like that's the 90s, right? Like even like 80s 90s, it was like a big consumer time to be in. Everybody was like, oh, buy everything, got to get new things for this Christmas, and then put it in a box and put it in the garage and forget it exists until next year.
Yeah, but I do like it. It's a source of nostalgia for me. It definitely doesn't give me the ick. If anything, it makes me feel a warm fondness for my childhood that is absent in recent years.
I don't have money for knickknacks. Like,
exactly.
That.
I have a black Christmas tree that has lights built into the branches.
Yeah.
We have one small box of Christmas stuff because we've tried to get away from like the consumerism element of a lot of holidays, but we do technically celebrate it, and we have a little tiny fake tree with like a million ornaments. So it's fun for us to like put it together every year, and put our like 3 gifts each underneath it.
It's also more tradition too, right? And like actually community and like being together. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I remember watching what's the movie with the Siamese, the Disney movie with the Siamese cats?
Oh, it's
Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, I remember watching Lady and the Tramp in a house like this movie when I was a kid. I think it was my cousins. My cousins lived in a house, big mansion that was converted into a motel.
Cool.
Because it was like like a hotel. Yeah. So this scene reminds me of watching that movie and Feifel Goes West in this like weird house that looked exactly like this, with all this stuff everywhere. And maybe it's not the ick. Maybe it's just like a
Also, you're too old to be saying the ick, Jason. Stop it right now.
Language is language, homie. I can say whatever I want.
I'm just joking. One other thing I wanted to before we get away from the house aesthetic, I saw recently that the Home Alone house is on sale, and they did a tour of the interior of it, and it's the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Everything all of the character you remember from the McAllister home has now been millennialized.
Yeah,
to
it's all
shit.
modernized.
It looks like ass. It's so
love
bad. It's so
architecture
sad.
so much, and the amount of like, I am a millennial, but I'm gonna kind of bad talk us for a second. The amount of millennials that buy gorgeous homes, I don't know how they afford it, but they do, and then they just strip it of every piece of character that existed. I am personally upset.
And then paint everything white and gray.
Yeah. You're like, no.
You get a gray
keep the
couch and a
wood.
gray table, and it's like, dude, this looks bad. You look like you want to live in
A hospital?
THX. you want to live in a hospital.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's just really sad. But you know, I mean, to me, the perfect aesthetic would be like a sort of a warm, inviting, and comfortable looking space, not a cold, stoic, spotless, and sterile place. Yeah. Anyway, this home is full of character and characters. We meet Toodles, who is a madman who's lost his marbles.
Toodles
and if you don't remember, Toodles was the character in the original cartoon who wears the onesie with the little bear ears and was Peter Pan's little homie, little buddy.
Yeah, he's one of the brothers. And so I guess in this movie, he's left his marbles in Wonderland, or sorry, not Wonderland, Neverland. And he's constantly looking for them. But it's funny because he's kind of a little bit crazy. So every time he says I've lost my marbles, it's like while he's doing something insane, like crawling around on the floor, being like, lost, I've lost my marbles. But his introduction is great. It's like it's this sort of dry lead up where Robin Williams is like, now remember, we're in England. This is the land of dignity. We have to make sure first impressions are extremely important. We only get one, so we have to remain professional. And he opens the door, and it's Toodles, and he just yells, "It's snowing!" and slams the door in their face.
So good.
It's a really good gag.
Oh.
And you kind of you get who that character is in 1 second. Like, you know, you don't really have to think too much about Toodles after that point. You know that he's going to be an eccentric weirdo.
He could possibly be the most lost boy.
Yeah.
Who was never found. But he aged up.
Love, as we're talking about characters, Maggie Smith is perfect. I love her in this movie. Every single time she gets misty-eyed, I'm like, I'm going to cry. And on top of all of that, I want that wardrobe. I don't know who made her clothes, but like her cute little like granny gear, I want it. I want her outfit that she wears to like the big gala of like her orphanage stuff. Stunning. The big like fur shawl. Oh,
there's a store that's actually, I noticed in Steve's neighborhood, or maybe it's actually closer to where I work, but it's like a vintage store that's 1940s to like 1990s.
I live in vintage stores.
You might want to hit that store up and get yourself some ball gowns.
Add it to my wardrobe.
I'm going to an advanced orphanage showing this afternoon. I need to look my best. I like her.
Podcast I'm on, I will be wearing a ball gown.
A ball gown
right now.
I think her horror movie intro is the best, where she's just in shadow at the top of the stage saying, "Hello, boy." Peter looks up and it's kind of does that slow pan on her as she comes down the stairs.
There might as well have been like full lightning behind her. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's something interesting with this movie that we should mention just here, because it happens multiple times. But this movie goes back and forth between lovable, loving kids romp to just straight up horror, like Labyrinth level, like the horse in the mud in Neverending Story level horror for kids.
Yeah.
And I think that might be what still resonates with me. And as a kid, as an adult, remembering back to being a kid, you have that like those memories that have stuck with you.
Terrifying.
But
like,
even
you just started falling in love with these characters. Obviously, like, kids knew Robin Williams, so they loved Robin Williams, and they were like, "Oh gosh, something bad is happening," and it's really scary.
Yeah, and then even as an adult, you can it sort of takes you out of it being a kids movie, because you actually get a little pang of that. Like, this is one of those movies that was probably had a family taking their kids to the theaters in mind.
Yeah,
I think that Spielberg does know, at least in this era of his filmmaking, he knew the balancing act and how to do it right. He knew the appropriate amount of horror that you can put in a children's story without it being horrifying without it being absolutely inappropriate, you know. Like E.T., for example, has some genuinely frightening moments.
Yeah.
And even the Indiana Jones movies, there's some horror there, but you know, those are geared towards more like 13-year-olds.
Yeah, that's like a PG-13
little
kind of
kids.
a thing.
Yeah. But like kids love being scared. I think I probably said this before on one of the podcasts, but kids love being scared. Like a little bit of like spooky. I watched Courage the Cowardly Dog growing up all the time. Did it give me nightmares? Yes. Did I watch it all the time? Yes. I loved it. I was like, I don't care if I can't sleep. This is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I owned E.T. on VHS as a kid. Could not watch it.
I had like every Goosebumps book, and I watched Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark like it was religion.
Me too.
Once I got to that age, once I was that movie or that show was on, probably it's like 1998, 99. So I was 10, 11, 12.
I was like 4 and I was like, I love it.
but it goes back to the thing that I've talked about on this show a million times. But I watched RoboCop when I was like 6 or 7, and it just broke my brain. Mm-hmm. Any form of suspense, any sort of spookiness, any sort of hint at gore, and then coupled with I watched The Sandlot around the same time. So The Sandlot also has a lot of that weird horror for kids, but puking also, and I couldn't handle like it made me this. And actually, Problem Child 2 has a really notorious like puking scene, and is really just twisted. Not a kids movie at all, but since it's Problem Child, parents were like, whatever, it's got child in the name. Look who's talking. That's
totally
for kids.
Safe. We won't.
It's got babies in it.
On it.
And that's kind of what happened to me as a kid. Like the parents weren't really pre-watching things, and just seeing that it had, you know, kid or child or whatever in the name, and assuming kids could watch it. But I have these situation after situation where I was exposed to this stuff, and it made me, I don't know, it did something to my brain where it made me afraid to watch movies until my 20s because I was always afraid that something like that I couldn't handle was going to happen. And the irony is I go back and watch all this stuff now, and I watch the most horrific horror movies now, and none of it just bounces off me like I'm Teflon.
Oh, there's still some horror movies that cause me to I don't like this. It doesn't happen as often. But I mean, we've talked about this many times on the pod before. It's like there's a certain awakening we all have where horror becomes a part of us and something that we love and enjoy.
Mine was just
Walking
really,
Dead
really.
for me.
Oops.
Yeah,
you're just a twisted freak.
Yeah,
I know. I was like, that should get checked out. I should talk to someone about this.
I said this on the podcast before. I was shown The Evil Dead when I was 5 years old, which is
that's a little too young.
You shouldn't have done that.
Well, my favorite part of that, Steve, is you were shown Ghostbusters at like the same time, and those movies got twisted in your head for like a decade.
I thought that they were the same movie. I thought that Ghostbusters 2 was the scariest movie ever made.
That's so funny.
It's so
I really want like a mashup of those two movies. I need you to make it from what you remember in your brain.
It's just Dan Aykroyd shooting a laser at, you know, Ash Williams, who's floating like yeah, no, it was a bad babysitter situation where like this lady was supposed to be taking care of us, but she basically just threw us in the basement with her own kids, and her kids were old enough that they had these movies. But I guess she was a bad parent, so old enough that they can watch whatever the fuck they want. Like,
yeah, got it.
And so
I went to this
just put stuff on to freak me out.
I went to this babysitter, and they were showing reruns of You Can't Do That on Television every day after school. And we would watch like Animaniacs and Tiny Toons, and then You Can't Do That on Television, which is another one of those shows that like is just grimy and gross and weird for a kid's show. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have ever actually watched that show, but I have
no idea what you're talking about.
This is before me.
Yeah. You Can't Do That on Television is the Nickelodeon show where the slime came from. Alanis Morissette was on it, and if you said what, you got slimed. The Nickelodeon slime is from this show, and it was a kids variety show like SNL, but it had.
Because I remember like that's what I had. With like
is actually.
I remember yeah.
Is actually a spinoff of a Canadian sort of version of.
It's on YTV.
Called It's Alive, which was a similar thing but Canadian.
Got it.
It's Alive was much later. You Can't Do That on Television is from the 80s, and Nickelodeon basically built their whole empire around this one show because it was sort of edgy for kids. But I have a vivid memory
The
of
Gak
watching
Empire.
the Gak Empire. I have a vivid memory of watching this show. You can't do that on television. It would have been in heavy syndication at this point. It was on like ITV or what Global used to be before it was called Global. Like that's how long ago it was. But I have this vivid memory of like watching a sketch on this show and feeling so violently ill that I had to leave the room as like a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah. It was unregulated. They just fucking showed kids whatever when we were kids. If you're in your 30s, we were exposed to like high fructose corn syrup sugars, cartoons that were just extended commercials for
The
for
scariest
toys.
PSA ads about like work safety and like,
Yep.
oh my God.
And weird
Nightmare.
kids shows.
Undiagnosed ADHD and autism.
Hey.
Well, that's from the high fructose corn syrup and the
Some food
vaccinations.
coloring.
So I want to tell you
Oh my
guys about
God.
how vaccinations cause. Okay, I'm full.
Jail.
Not even
Jail
as a joke.
immediately.
Stop this.
Okay.
We need to get like bars that go over like Jason's screen at like different times where it's like, jail.
Yeah, that's canceled. Sometimes it's canceled when Cass is on the show. I go to jail.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, buddy. I can't get away from it. Oh, son of a bitch! Son of a bitch!
So good.
I need to have an alarm that goes off too. Like
We need some more sound.
Sirens.
yeah. So where are we in the story here?
That's a good question.
we're
Oh, we
introduced-
haven't gotten to the orphanage gala yet.
No.
Well,
we've
Peter walks
only-
into the room upstairs and he sees the mural.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
he
so
sees
this is our first magical moment where he walks in and it's this amazingly shot scene with, cocked angles and dramatic music and slow pushes, and the window opens up and the curtains are fluttering and the music swells into the Captain Hook theme as he's looking around at the trim of the wallpaper, which is telling us a sort of a little storybook narrative of Captain Hook and Peter Pan. And it's like, this is when the movie sort of wakes up on you, where you're like, oh yeah, this is good. This is when you start to feel the tingles, the Peter Pan tingles.
I think this is also the moment where I put in, this is my first note of the movie, which was just magic, 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 magic.
Magic,
And it was
magic.
this moment. I was like, it's just magic. That's it.
And then we get another nice moment where they call him. Someone's calling Peter, and he turns around and he puts his hands on his hips like the Peter Pan pose, which he does throughout the movie instinctively. He does it, and then he immediately is like, "Did anyone see that? Yeah, why did I do that?" So I guess for him, that's also the Peter Pan waking up inside of him as well, right? And then, from here, we get a little bit more of like family trauma where he yells at his kids because he's on a business call and they're fucking around, screaming and, grabbing him and stuff. And he gets annoyed and tells him to shut up.
Also, the fact that the mom was literally like, you have a portable phone. Just go to the other room. You chose to be here. And now you're yelling at our kids. Like, get it together, Peter.
I mean, to be fair, they burst in screaming. Like, he sits down on the phone and they just like...
But also, he's an adult and he's tall. He's got legs. He can just boop, boop, next room.
It's true. Kids are annoying and you shouldn't yell at them when they're just having fun. It's traumatizing.
Kids, they don't know.
Yeah. It can have lasting effects. Believe me.
What?
Yeah. No, your fun is wrong. You're not allowed to have fun. And Jack also does kind of a funny thing, which is like, he's arguing with the guy on the phone and he says, well, why doesn't somebody just shoot me in the head? And then Jack turns around and goes, bah! Which is objectively comedy. It's good. Jack.
He was just going with the script. He was like, I got this.
Yeah. You asked me to. And then, Peter, he realizes as well, he's not a monster who does not understand why the children are upset with him. He sits down and he's defeated. He's scared he's going to lose the deal at work, but he's also kind of disappointed in himself that he screamed at his kids when they were just being kids.
Yeah.
And
he's not an absolute monster.
Yeah. And then he has a small heart-to-heart with his wife, who is kind of implying, like, you and I decided to have children. You have to be a father and not just somebody who provides, but somebody who comes to baseball games, somebody who has fun with your kids when they're playing around. You play with them. You don't yell at them when they're trying to have fun. And
it's also like the whole thing too of like kids are only kids for so long. Like especially like we know now as adults. I didn't know this as a child when I first watched this movie, but as an adult, you do kind of realize, wow, time passes so fast. So fast. Like I think about this year alone, and I'm like, it was New Year's yesterday. What happened? Like
the problem
that
too
moment
is
leaves.
it passes exponentially as time goes by. During this era, during this time, this 10-year-old kid, every day seems like an eternity. And on top of that, when we were kids in the 90s, we didn't have stuff like phones and stuff to like the feeling of boredom was a very real worry that I had as a kid. I needed
my brain was like cool. I would like literally go and like lay on my grass outside and like look at the moon. You know what? Like in the summertime, you can see the moon like during the day.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there and look at the moon and just daydream until the sun went down. I was like, that was fun.
Yeah.
But I'm finding as a
real game. Just
Yeah.
lie on the grass.
There's nothing else to do. You played your one Nintendo game 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But now I'm finding as an adult who's pushing 40 that like I get bored at the amount of choice that I have to stimulate my brain. There are times where like I don't want to play video games. I don't want to watch anything. I don't even want to fucking scroll on social media or TikTok. And I literally just go into my bedroom and just lay on my bed, kind of like the staring at the sky thing you guys are talking about. Just lay there and just sort of go inside my own brain.
You should do it outside next time.
Yeah.
Go lie in some grass in a park.
Clouds,
just stare at, look at the clouds.
I remember yelling, like screaming as a kid. I'm bored, like yelling.
Yes.
I'm bored. Like it was the worst feeling too.
Yeah.
Now I've filled my life with enough hobbies. You know, I draw, I do recordings, I write, I have all these things that I do. So boredom now, it doesn't exist. It's like the fear of not being able to do all the shit that I want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I took up Lego to sort of disconnect too. I do a lot of Lego because it allows me to kind of switch away from it's more analog than digital, you know, so it's a good outlet. But my problem with Lego is I always just slam the set too fast. I have a few sets now that have thousands of pieces, and I'll do them in a few days, and then I'm like, well, that was $400.
Spend another $6,000 on more Lego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Legos. I never got into Lego. I didn't have Lego as a kid. I didn't really get into it. I mean, I had one of the creative bins where it was just like colored bricks, and you just.
That's what I had too.
Yeah, I didn't have like the sets and stuff. I
had so much fun with that, like the little like gray mat, and I think I was telling you this last night, Stephen. But I would like make these like whole cities. It was very like rudimentary. It was like basically lots of rectangles that were tall and different heights, and then my cat would like walk over it like Godzilla, and I was like, that's so cool.
The equivalent now to me is when I play one of those survival games like Conan Exiles or Valheim or something, where I'm like, my Legos are, I'm going to build a really cool looking base. I don't really care too much about the story. I'm more interested in making the infrastructure of this small community functional, and like it has to make sense. Where are we going to have the food? Where do we cook the food? It has to be near the homes, and I'm like trying to make this like the street needs to lead to the well, and I love it. I love it. Yeah,
I'm a builder first. You like put me in like Minecraft or like Sims. I'm like, I'm building the whole time. I'm building.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm the person that plays with you guys who are building, and I'm trying to push the story forward.
Like, not today.
Yeah.
Well, I bring back all the new resources.
One time,
which I think
I'll tell the story. I don't know if we've told this on the podcast before. I was on vacation, and rather than go do something fun with my life, I decided to go dog sit for my parents while they were also on vacation. So they were having fun in the tropical climate, and I was taking care of animals. But Jason was on, and he had to go to work, and then he came back, I think like 8 hours later, and I was playing Valheim all day. When Jason logged on, he's like, what did you just clear cut an entire forest? And I was like, yep. I spent 8 hours chopping down trees. Well, we never ran out of wood after that.
It feels good.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. I cut down so many trees, and I think if we ever were going to go back onto that file again, there's still trees that I never fully like cleaned up. Like they're just floating in the water. Anyway, back to Hook.
That was funny. Well, I was gonna ask you guys, like, imagine how bored Jack is, because he's kind of at odds with his dad. his mom is trying to defend them, but like the mom like doesn't really interact with the kids either. I noticed
she's kind of a nothing character in the movie, which is
which is weird to see, because the matriarch character is sort of covered by Wendy, like the great grandmother character,
and Tinkerbell later too, right?
And Tinkerbell.
Yeah, I think that she's not really needed as a character, but it is nice to have her in the scenes as somebody to poignantly ask the tough questions of Peter.
But she acted her butt off. Like that scene with her in the window and like she's talking to him like stern talk.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's good acting. I believe you.
It is a good performance. Unfortunately, not a lot of agency, and it's kind of a forgettable character. When you're thinking about Hook, your mind isn't immediately going to like, oh yeah, the mom was great. You're like, oh yeah, no, Hook was awesome. Shmee, remember Shmee?
Oh, the best.
But she does the job, which is again, like I said, push the tough questions for Peter to have to answer, which is basically like explaining to you and being the voice of reason and telling you like, you have to take your children's lives into consideration. You have to provide for them, but you also have to provide emotional support and fun. And, this kind of hurts Peter even more, but they've got something to do, guys. They've got to go to the opening of an orphanage. That's what it is. Right?
I think it's an opening, right? Because
it's like they're announcing the construction of they bring out a model of the orphanage and they unveil it and everybody's
clapping. Is this an orphanage for ants?
Yeah, it needs to be at least 3 times bigger.
My brain went there too.
Had to say it out loud.
But the moment at the gala, I mean, we also get a nice little moment where Maggie makes a parachute for Peter because he's scared of flying.
He's so cute. Also, that little girl, adorable.
Yeah, it's also one of those Spielberg-y things where it's like, they've made this cute joke where she makes a parachute for him in order to save him from being afraid of flying. But then that parachute is also used, I think, as one of the things that brings him to Neverland. Like he goes to Neverland in the parachute, no?
Yeah.
Or is it just the tent? I don't remember.
No, because Tink like wraps him up in it, right?
Yeah,
when carries him like a baby, like full cradle style.
Yeah. Not it's like he gets knocked out because he like fist fights himself, aka fist fights Tinkerbell, and then knocks himself out, and then she carries him off in the. I didn't clock that it was a. Yeah, I didn't clock that it was a parachute, but that's interesting.
And then she explained Maggie's being read a story by Grandma Wendy, and what is this? What are they talking about? She's explaining. I don't remember. Even though
I just wrote
1 million.
I just wrote Peter talking at a dinner.
Oh yeah,
you guys were talking to me and each other.
Well, this moment, I can sum up what happens here. Peter is giving a speech at the unveiling of this orphanage. It's basically to honor Wendy as a person who has taken care of orphans since he was a child, and even before that, her whole existence has been taking care of people, and that's illustrated by all these elderly men standing up in the audience, blowing a kiss to her to say thank you, with the implication being that all of those people were orphans, and she saved every single one of them, which is kind of a weird scene. I remember being kind of like a little bit frightened of this scene as a kid. It was like, who are all these weird old men? But as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, I understand what's going on here now. But because it's being contrasted with a horror moment, that moment as a kid also reads as horrifying to me. Because I'm like, something scary is happening and it's cutting back and forth between this speech and all these men thanking her with the scariest shit in the movie, which is like Captain Hook arriving as a green mist in the house and, and kidnapping the children.
The note that I wrote is...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Toodles has a freak out in the house and the wind blows green and the magic begins.
Yeah,
basically
magic,
spooky magic. It's green magic.
I also really like the thing too, like what you were saying with like having the flash between like that scene and then scary stuff. It's also terrifying too, because you're like, oh, they are alone. Like all the adults are gone. Nobody is there to help them. They have no idea what's going on. That in itself is also terrifying. Like even like as an adult, you're like, oh God.
Like there's there. It's not like they left them alone, like there's Toodles. And then there's also, what's her name? The screaming lady.
Oh, yes, the screaming lady.
Liza. He's like, "What's your name?"
Yeah,
Libby?
she did not
Liza. Yeah, she screams when she meets them, and then the next time we see her, which is this scene, she's screaming again, but she's also screaming that the children are screaming. She's screaming the word "screaming," which is funny. But there's also really good set design here. You know, as Toodles is barking, he's barking because the dog is outside is barking, but then it pans over to a ship in a bottle, and it's like a perfect recreation of Captain Hook's ship, and he starts saying "Hook," and then it cuts to the bedroom upstairs where the latch that's holding the door shut is a little tiny Captain Hook hook. Like it looks exactly like the hook behind me. It's so good. It's such fun. I assume there's people that would look at that and be like, "Oh, fuck off!" Like that's so on the nose. But it's like, yeah, but it's cool.
But this movie is a little bit on the nose, and like it's okay to do that. Like obviously a place and time for everything, but this is the moment to use it. It's a film like this.
I love it.
So
and then, you know, the children get kidnapped and they arrive home. And, you know, just when you think the horror is over, we get another horrifying moment, which is them going through the house and seeing this long scratch that goes from the entrance all the way up to the bedroom and into the door, where they pass Liza on the stairs. And she's like, "The children are all screaming." She couldn't get in, apparently. I don't know. And then they find a giant dagger with a letter stabbed into the door.
Horror. Absolute horror. Like
hard horror too. I made a joke while we were watching it that like it would be crazy if when they're walking up the stairs, there's that line from Hook's Hook up the wallpaper, and Liza's just decapitated.
Yeah. Like you literally could have just shot it slightly differently, added that, and you're like, now it's a horror movie, guys.
That's straight horror.
Strap in.
Yeah, Hook is a real villain in this one.
Yeah.
He decapitated Liza. Libby? Liza! Yeah. And then we get Toodles positing mystery to us. He snaps it. He finds his marbles for a minute, and he's able to string together a sentence that sounds like the ramblings of a crazy person, but he's just telling them what's going on. We all know that he's spitting facts over here. He says, you know, you have to fly, you have to fight, you have to crow, you have to save Maggie, you have to save Jack. Hook is back. Yes, that's right. I remember that line. I'll never forget it. It's burned in my mind forever.
Yeah, it's so.
We also sort of I don't know if you mentioned this, but King Kane here makes a good point that like while this is all happening, Wendy is like going through it at the event.
Yeah,
I wrote Wendy
she
in
feels
shambles.
something. She's like, it's bad. Something bad is happening.
She has a Jedi Obi-Wan moment where she's like,
"It's as though 1,000 voices all cried out at once and was
there's a disturbance in the Force."
Okay.
That classic line from Star Wars.
Yep. I was doing a different line from Star Wars. So she basically has like a Jedi moment where she senses Hook, I guess, coming into, but it's also implied that Hook has been chilling around the house because Maggie earlier says that ugly man by the window was scary. Like the ugly window washer freaked me out. And I'm like, okay, so is that Mr. Hook or Captain Hook, or is that
Mr. Hook?
She calls him Mr. Hook in this movie, and I think it's funny. Or is it Smee? Because then you see Smee at the end of the movie, and he's cleaning up trash.
Oh yeah, because of the Wizard of Oz thing at the end, where Smee is there, and he's a caretaker.
Yeah, he's sweeping up glass bottles, I guess, just on the street. I don't know if that's a job in real life, like street sweeping, but maybe in London, England, it is.
I mean, like if I'm thinking like Mary Poppins, we got like the chimney sweepers that were also just sweeping up anything. They were like, chimney doesn't matter. I got a street, it's dirty.
Yeah.
And his accent is somehow more Cockney when he's in the real world.
It's time for the missus, what's that? I don't want to like. You're gonna catch a ton of medicines.
Speaking of though, the next morning or later that night, the police officer shows up, and the first in the long line of hilarious cameos, Phil Collins shows up. I can't think of any other movie that Phil Collins is notably in, and this is one of those things where a few weeks ago I watched one of those listicles of like, you may not have known these actors. Fully forgot that Phil Collins was in this movie.
Yeah, I think I saw that same one, and I was like, go ahead, test me. And then I was like, yeah, I knew all that shit.
I didn't know that the couple kissing that we're gonna get to here in a sec was Carrie Fisher and George Lucas. Those two guys that you were like, those are somebody. One of them is Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett
Whoa.
is, Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Yeah, this movie is full of cameos. It's wild
That's
how many there are.
Glenn Close, of course, David Crosby.
I think that for Glenn Close, during her process, they were trying to make her look sort of like a lady pirate, but they couldn't get a good look for her, and they're like, "This isn't working." And then she was just
Wouldn't it be funny if
a beard on me? Just give me a beard and a weird wig, and we'll make this work. And it does. When I was a kid, I thought it was just a man with a weird high voice. I didn't think it was our good friend Glenn Close, Cruella de Vil herself. Anyway, so our Phil Collins moment, I believe he was just he just wanted to be in the movie. I think he either was just a massive fan of Steven Spielberg or a massive fan of Peter Pan, but either way, he just asked if he could be in it. And they're like, yeah, we'll find something for you. You can be the police detective. And it's not distracting. I mean, not for me, at least.
No.
I feel
and also probably not for the kids watching it too, right? They're like, I don't know who that is, but
when I was a kid, I didn't know who the fuck Phil Collins was.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, look, it's Phil Collins, the man who composed the soundtrack for Tarzan.
One of the biggest recording artists at the time, though. He was a huge star from Genesis and then his own solo work. The other two people that we didn't mention that are technically cameos are young Wendy Darling is Gwyneth Paltrow.
That wasn't a cameo. That's just her being.
She just played that.
Yeah.
I don't know why this list that I'm looking at right now is treating it like that, but that was, you know what I mean. The daughter of Dustin Hoffman.
His kids are in it. Yeah, I think that one of the baseball kids at the beginning is his son, and then there's another one, his daughter, else somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the pirate that's with Jimmy Buffett is the other guy's boxer Tony Burton, who I don't know, but it's notable. If you were a big boxing fan in 1991, you're probably like,
"Hey,
Wolf of Wall Street
guy,
snapping point." Yeah,
isn't that from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Wolf of Wall Street. I haven't. Okay, you're probably right. You're definitely right.
Yeah,
you're correcting me.
Yeah.
You're correct, and you're correcting me. As we do on the show.
So yeah, cameos. There's so many. It is nice to see Gwyneth Paltrow's. It's interesting to see because you're like, oh yeah, I guess this would probably be one of her first, if not her first, time on camera. But her mom was a pretty famous actor as well. Have you ever seen Westworld, the movie?
Like the original movie?
There is a movie 70s? That came out in the 70s.
No, I didn't know that.
The show is based off of the book and the TV show.
Cool.
There's a sequel called Future War, and her mom is in that. I watched it the other day, and I was like, this lady looks exactly like the mom from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was looking her up, and I'm like, oh, she's not related to the woman from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but she is Gwyneth Paltrow's mom. What the heck?
I'm actually curious because Gwyneth Paltrow was sort of dominated the 90s and early 2000s in movies, and then became a crazy alt.
Was she in the 90s? I don't know if she dominated the 90s. Well, this is also the very early 90s, so it's very reasonable that she became famous quite soon.
I think it's right around when she's in Seven. From pretty much 95 to 2005, she's like one of the highest paid actors.
And now she sells pills.
No, she sells bullshit. Vagina scented candles.
She was on Glee for a time.
Glee? She was on Glee?
Yeah. Yeah, she had a whole separate storyline with Matthew Morrison, who is Mr. Shu, and she was the cool bad substitute teacher who was yeah, kids, God. I don't care if you do drugs, let's sing some cool songs. Glee was a time. Glee was a time.
Let's light these vagina scented candles and sing some songs.
Yeah.
Is Glee worth watching?
Yes.
I'm a TV person that I need to watch all those iconic TV moments. And I kind of am into that karaoke vibe.
It's absolute and utter chaos, but you should absolutely watch it. And also a lot of the things that are in that show, I'm if they tried to put this out now, which wasn't that long ago, that would not be aired. There's no way. But
that's what I've heard about it. It was like a throwback to when you could do whatever you want on TV, even though it was around 2009.
They got away with murder on that show, but it's very fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation, because if somebody was like, you should watch Glee, I'd be like, I don't think so. But I would trust your opinion, because
I love camp and crazy.
You love camp, and the three of us all kind of like the same kinds of movies and get the same, maybe not like the same kinds of movies, but we all get the same kinds of stuff out of movies,
Yeah.
So that's a good recommendation, I would say.
So the kids are gone. Our friend Phil Collins talks to Toodles for a second. Toodles, there's an interesting sort of theory around this, that like Toodles goes up to Phil Collins and says, "You've forgotten how to fly." And Phil Collins is like, "Well, one does, don't they?" And then he leaves. And so the theory is that like maybe Phil Collins was a lost boy at some point who like left Neverland and became a police investigator.
We were theory crafting that kind of stuff too tonight with the pirates. Like, how do the pirates end up there? Do you just, since you don't age in Neverland, are these pirates coming and going and aging and coming back?
It's
pirates? How is Rufio like 15 and the rest of them are like 10?
You do still age in Neverland. From my understanding, you still age. It just takes a long time.
Okay.
I always thought it was like you're immortal there unless you get killed, but I don't know. Like you're like a vampire almost. When you go to Neverland, you stop aging. So I just always assumed that the pirates found Neverland because they got lost at sea or whatever, and now they're trapped there. But they were already old men pirates when they got there, and that's why they're all like that now.
And they're these kids are ruining my life.
Yeah, or they're all like horrible criminals and monsters and murderers. And they died in real life, and this is their hell. They're condemned to live on a boat next to an island full of shitty children and teenagers who constantly try and kill them.
Or just like throwing mud at them. They've got like wicker baskets for armor, and you're like,
you're trying to shoot a 12-year-old.
Have a sword and a gun.
Yeah,
and
he's throwing like a sponge full of paint at you. Like, God damn it. These fucking kids.
They're just making a mess. They're not really hurting anybody.
But somebody has to clean it up. It's definitely Shmi.
It's like we killed 14. We killed 14 Lost Boys in our last encounter. How many pirates did we lose? Oh, they weren't trying to kill us. They just they shot us with arrows that had marshmallows on the tips.
It's more akin to a prank than violence. They were just trying to prank us pretty hard, and they did. They threw like some mud at us that they imagined was
kill them.
Green, delicious goo.
He kept saying food fight and then pretending to throw stuff at me, but he wasn't throwing anything. I was confused.
So after the Phil Collins bit, Wendy and Peter kind of have. Wendy's sort of trying to tell Peter what's what. Like, you used to be Peter Pan. Peter the whole time is just like, I don't know what anybody's talking about. And even the kids are like, Dad, you're the Peter of legend. And he's like, what are you talking about?
Peter Pan. Yeah, I mean, you would think that she's like 100 years old and she's telling you that you're Peter Pan. Yeah, I would be like, what the fuck?
She needs to be putting her own.
If she's that old, I'd be like, maybe I believe you. You've been around longer than me. I don't know.
I don't know. As soon as people hit a certain age and start talking crazy, I'm like,
nothing
is real to them anymore.
That's fair. Yeah. Lost their marbles.
They've all lost their marbles.
And then she literally shows a picture of him in a book, a drawing of him in a book, the book Peter Pan.
I love that drawing.
This is a drawing of you. Yeah, it's a really good picture.
Good.
That illustration like lives in my mind when I think of Peter Pan. That's like what I picture in my head now. I don't think of the Disney one where he's wearing tights and stuff. I picture of like a weird little feral elf child with a sword, just like his clothes are made of leaves. But like the weird thing is when you see Peter in the flashbacks later when he's young, he's not wearing that crazy outfit. I was hoping he would, as a kid. I was like, oh, I wonder if I'll see him and he's wearing his wild leaf clothes.
His wild leaf outfit, this outfit right here.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Even his shoes have like leaves sticking out of them.
It's so cool.
It's dope, yeah. It reminds me of like
a... Go ahead.
I was gonna say it reminds me of something like a low-level armor you'd find in like an MMO, like at the start of the game or something.
Level 1, you're like, I guess I pick up this leaf and that's my outfit.
I've got leaf armor. Yeah.
He reminds me specifically of a character from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 6. Let me see if I can get this pulled up quick enough. This character right here, Gao from Final Fantasy VI, who is a feral child that you meet on in this sort of like Africa kind of a place called the Veld, and he's also able to do blue magic, which is the magic you get when that you absorb from monsters, which I feel like Peter Pan would have that ability. Like he fights a fucking rabbit and has the ability to like do chew attack.
Did
and
you
he fights
say a rabbit?
Yeah, and he fights an elephant and has the ability to shoot water out of it. Shoot water.
You know what Peter Pan with his little dagger being like, ha, and it's like a little bunny being like, stop.
Stop. Please stop, Peter. You're kind of just gnawing on my arm at this point. It's just
Stop
another
killing
prank.
rabbits. Yeah.
It's another prank, you lost boy.
This is psychopath behavior, Peter. He's killed another 14 rabbits today.
Oh god.
And he's not even eating them.
Somebody should call someone.
Yeah, he's not even eating them. He just keeps like pretending to eat it.
Oh god.
And
terrifying.
Yeah. So okay, so this is now
we got a lot of plot to go through, guys. We got this.
he has his the revelation, but he doesn't believe it, so he decides he's gonna go get drunk in the room where
he
the
gets
children were
wasted.
kidnapped. And
so I have a small theory. Where is it? Can you do the thing? None of this happens. Peter's correct. He goes into the bedroom and starts drinking, blacks out, wakes up at the end of the movie in front of the statue with all the bottles around him, and has had a dream that all of this plays out because of everybody telling him that he is Peter Pan of legend.
Jason, explain the marbles in the pixie dust then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, why are you trying to kill
magic?
Okay,
Jason's a pirate. Jason's a pirate.
I'm a pirate. Yar,
Kill
I'm
pirates,
the Peter.
yeah.
I'm the Dr. Hook of legend. The artist, the recording artist, Dr. Hook.
Yeah. Dr. Hook, MD.
No, that's just a theory. It's just because we have to do the theory segment at some point.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Sorry, I shut you down so fast. I'm the worst.
I think that's also a theory.
a lot of love.
I've heard that one before, and the common clapback is, oh yeah, what about the marbles and the pixie dust then? But it's like, he could have got drunk and found them in the garage or something.
And it's just
fucking marbles.
You're like, oh.
And the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, it's 1991 and he's a businessman. That pixie dust is just a metaphor for cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Must be.
Also, maybe he
feel
just
like
got really
flying, right?
Maybe he got really drunk and fell out of the balcony and died. And this is him just in like a weird
credits.
Afterlife. Yeah.
Limbo.
Yeah, but
so
yeah,
he's getting drunk,
and Tinkerbell shows up.
We have a really good shot here. I wanted to use this shot in the video at the beginning of the episode, but I couldn't get it to work with the beat. And it's a nice shot where it's like a slow zoom in on Peter as he's realizing that one of the stars he's looking at is coming for him. It's coming right for him, and it chases him around the room. He fights Tinkerbell basically, and he wins. He knocks her ass into the dollhouse, and then he has a conversation with Tinkerbell about how he needs to get it together and come save his kids. And it's a good scene. It's a nice scene. I like the dollhouse set is very cute and fun, where she's basically just in this giant doll, like the way they would have filmed it is they built a giant dollhouse for her to mess around in on a soundstage somewhere. And I wish she interacted with the Barbies in there a little bit, though. It would have been funny.
Yeah.
And she faked eyes because she's trying to get him to believe in fairies, even though there's one literally talking to him right now. But I think he thinks it's the whiskey and the mental breakdown he's having.
He's like, was this actually absent the whole time? What?
Yeah. And he's also like hitting on her in a weird way.
A little bit. He keeps calling her
Your
little
wife
bud,
is in the
which I
next
thought was
room. You're
really
like,
funny.
Peter.
Yeah. And then she flips him and puts him inside the parachute and flies him to Neverland. And this is where we get the George Lucas, Carrie Fisher cameo. You can't tell it's them. You wouldn't know. You'd never know it was them.
So cute. Look at her.
Yeah. You never know it was them because it's too far away. But apparently that is George Lucas and Carrie Fisher making out on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to float because they're kissing. So obviously they're having happy thoughts, which I guess horny thoughts count as happy thoughts.
Aw, that's adorable. What piece of history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a better job at getting pictures ready because I think that if we have the ability to do that,
we should use it. That's
we should use it.
awesome.
Yeah, because pulling this up all time good.
Yeah. Instead of me having to be like a feral child in a grass skirt, you just pull a picture up.
No imagination left. You don't have to use your imagination around here, around these parts. I'm gonna just show you. Show don't tell. That's what I always say.
So he wakes up in Pirate Town or whatever this. I don't even know. Does this place have a name? I don't really.
It's probably
know.
something
It's just,
like
it's the pirate set.
Hookerville.
Yeah, like Port Neverland.
Yeah. And he's probably still drunk. It depends on how much he drank. I don't know. The implication is that he's drunk in that scene, but he's not doing super drunk stuff, but he is like bumping into things. And
yeah, he's also doing like his pirate costume with like the eye patch, and he takes like drool a little bit, and he's like drooling. Yeah. You're like, okay,
drop your left shoulder, limp. And
it's also worth mentioning just that scene.
So
there's a lot of weird parallels to the movie Toys from Hook, but the previous scene where he's like trying to attack Tinkerbell really reminded me specifically of the general shooting his own toe when he's trying to shoot the bug in the room. And then Steve, coming up after this, there's that scene where the bed comes down from the ceiling in Hook's little bedroom area, kind of like a thing from Toys as well, which are both Robin Williams movies. I don't know if it was intentional, but both.
I mean, I think it's just an interesting thing to do, right, for the set.
Yeah.
But they're both like imagination movies, right?
Yeah. So. But I mean, like, if you have this sick office that's also your place of business, your living quarters, and where you sleep, and your closet and your bath, they did a really good job of like implementing all those things in a way that is beautiful. That set is so awesome. It's
stunning.
Like, it's the best set in the movie, and there's a lot of really good sets in this movie, but I think
that is the best one.
Yeah. We're not introduced to it yet, but we do have the funny moment where he's pretending to be a pirate, and he's doing a good job. He's walking in, and he's like, "Now say R." He's like, "R." And the other guy goes, "R." He goes, "How are you?" Like, not bad.
So funny.
Yeah, he's hobbling around the pirates. He meets the other pirates. They're like, something's wrong with this guy. They chase him immediately.
Well, they're trying to steal his shoes.
Yeah,
his shoes.
And then we get that great scene with the hook being introduced. He's carrying the hook through all the people on that like pillow.
It is
the hook looks amazing, and then we get that shot of him putting the hook on Captain Hook, and it's one of the most like weirdly unique scenes that you could have just shown a person put the hook on, but you get this like silhouetted like view of it with
it's
these
like a super
weird,
stylized scene.
With these like cool lights.
It's
well, even also we were talking earlier about like just the way that Spielberg tells stories, just with the way that he shoots things. Like it's following that pillow the entire time. You're building the anticipation. Now the hook, because it's in the middle of the frame, is basically a character. Like you're like, this is the spotlight of this character. That is the hook that will lead us to the best villain entrance of all time. And I'm like, that's sick.
It's the following of the pillow with the hook on it is so well shot, and it has such a great build to it, and it's introducing all these weird characters in the town and introducing the town itself. We kind of get a good idea of the geography of this. So the layout of this town just from Smee moving through it with the hook. And then we do the same journey with that hook all the way up during the fight with Peter and Captain Hook later on, all the way right up to the grindstone where during the fight he grinds his hook during the fight. It's awesome. And that shot, Jason, it's one of the ones that stands out in your mind because it's so unique compared to the rest of the movie. There's no
like with the actual hook itself and like the lights and everything.
Yeah, when it goes on and the fireworks go off,
like fireworks and almost like a grinding wheel. Like those sparks are really interesting.
They didn't have to do that for us. They didn't have to, but they did, and I'm very thankful.
Part of me wonders if that was like, I wonder if they added that in afterwards, just to break it up, or if it was always part of the plan. I don't know. But yeah, it's almost like something out of like a comic book or something, just to like have an interesting image to break up two of the images that are very similar. But then again, when we're introduced to Hook, we don't see his face immediately. It's like the hook comes out, it's on, he's waving it back and forth. We pan up his back. Smee whispers in his ear. He's like, "They love you, sir," or whatever, and he's like, "I hate them so much."
And then he also just does he does a profile first too, like even that as part of the introduction of like, you don't get to see me yet, but you will hear my voice and you will fear it for the rest of the movie, and then you can see me. It's like brilliant.
And then he turns around and does like a face, not to the camera, but just off to the side of the camera. But like in reality, he's just looking at the door he came through when he does that. You're like, he's not
I love that door, Smee.
Specifically for us. And he's like, thank you. And he goes into like a speech, basically tooting his own horn about something that he just accomplished or whatever. But what he's really doing is he's amping up the crowd so that he can then point out one specific person in the crowd who he's going to murder. And it's wonderful.
Well, I think it's because he literally, like in that moment too, he's like, "Look, I have Peter Pan's kids. I did it. I'm the best pirate." And you're like, that's a weird pirate thing to do, but okay. Go off, sis.
Which one of you doubted me? And
he's so good. Magical.
This is where we get our Glenn Close cameo, and it's a funny way to do it because he's walking through the crowd and he's like, you, no, not you. He's pushing people aside, and of course it lands on Peter Pan and this random pirate standing side by side, and they go for the obvious gag, but I think it's funny and it works. He goes, you think he's going to point out Peter, and he goes right up to Glenn Close and just starts being like, "You didn't believe me."
And he gets put in the boo box.
Yeah. And they
toss like nightmares of my childhood.
Yeah, they toss him in the boo box. I remember for years, like friends and I, we would yell, like, if somebody did something uncouth or weird or bad. Nowadays we say straight to jail, but we used to say the boo box. Put him in the boo box.
Put him in the boo box.
Yeah.
Yeah, before getting canceled, you were put in the boo box.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we just say that about me when I say things that are uncouth instead of canceling me every week.
We're gonna say, put him in the boo box.
Jail.
In the boo box in jail.
This whole sequence is where we see the boxer dude and David Crosby, as well as, like you said, Glenn Close. We get the red carpet stairs stomp moment, which has stuck with me my whole life. I love that.
Iconic. It's as a kid, I remember going up to other stairs and being like, "Where's the Kiki thing? I need my red carpet." What does not every staircase have this? It should.
And they should.
They should.
If I ever live in a mansion,
it's gonna have the flippy red staircase.
You got to get that installed. You got to find a person that can do that. Probably pretty difficult. That technology
I need a slide
probably
from my
died in the
bedroom
90s.
to the kitchen, and then I also need a staircase that has the red flippies. Those are my two main goals. In the boo box.
The boo box. Boo. I had forgotten about the boo box, but that's horrifying, which we pointed out while we were watching it last night. How horrifying it is.
I may die.
Because when they put Glenn Close in there, they also just start putting scorpions in.
He's got two in there.
That's the scary part. Yeah. I mean, it would be scary enough just being inside that box, but yeah, having scorpions dropped in there with you is next level.
Ouch.
It truly is. It truly is.
And then we get the reveal of the children who've been kidnapped in a net, and that's when Peter decides to reveal himself as well.
Also, what a dummy. I was like, you were doing so well. You were in disguise. Nobody knew. And you were like, my kids. And I'm like, damn it, Peter.
Yeah, but it also goes to show how
he does care.
To show that he cares, but also how he deals with conflict is not to fight, and it's not to sneak around, and it's not to try and be smart about it. It's to whip out your checkbook and pay the man whatever he wants.
Talk business. What do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the ransom?
Which leads to one of the funnier moments, which is he pulls out his checkbook to write a check for Captain Hook, and Captain Hook just pulls his gun out and shoots the checkbook, which then kills a man 40 feet away in the background. He just
also he's so quick, and they cut away from it in a second. It doesn't even exist.
No time to process. Yeah. The way that the performance of that fall is hilarious too, because he's got his hands across his chest and then his arms just drop. Oh shit. I just yanked my headset out.
We can still hear you. I don't know if you can hear us.
I couldn't hear you, but you could hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's a funny moment, just visually, but then it immediately transitions to kind of like one of the saddest moments in movie history, which is him pathetically trying to climb up to grab his kid's hands. That's all Captain Hook told him he had to do was climb up and stretch out and take his children by the hands, and he would let them leave. But what he wants them to do is fly up. He's like, just fly up there and touch their hands there. Yeah.
Also, I just want to add, because we haven't really talked about it yet on the podcast. We're a little bit in. Robin Williams in this role, obviously incredible. But it's also like an incredible experience to see him play this character, because I've never really seen him in anything else where he's like this, like cowardly and like boring and like just not with it. Like really nothing is going on except for like a couple little lines that he gets, you know, kind of up until this point that we're actually in Neverland. And I'm like, oh, this is so sad. This man is sad. And I'm like, dang.
It's interesting because Robin Williams doesn't really have, he's got such a unique regular speaking voice.
And he's also incredible in drama. But this isn't even drama. It's like, it's like realer than that in a way. Like,
but his regular speaking voice is like this movie is like the first time, one of the only times you get to actually hear him not do like his iconic Robin Williams voice, which was an interesting thing that I actually didn't really notice until watching it now. When I was a kid, every movie he was in sort of he'd be doing that character that he is at the end of the movie, where he's just like fluttery and all over the place and always making voices and this and that. And you know, if you go watch his old stand-up, he just goes berserk on stage, right? Like he's just going into a character, into a bit, into a character. Yeah. And in this movie, he's so grounded, but he's so perfect for the role because he, like, I just feel like he was perfectly cast.
I think
I don't know who else would be like from this era would be good as this character even.
Because he gets the whimsy of it too, right? Like when we do get those moments, and especially near the end, like you're like, okay, I see how this came to be. I see the journey, which is awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to shout it out before we didn't mention Robin Williams because he's the best.
He's great.
It doesn't feel like 1991. Like this movie almost feels a little ahead of its time.
Very much that, yeah.
And I don't more so that it's kind of timeless in a way.
Yeah.
You don't have all the things that would be in a modern movie, like you know, video games and iPhones and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But
and you also get the practical effects that like carries throughout everything. Like it doesn't necessarily make it feel old. It's just like, oh, practical effects, cool.
Yeah, and it's still in the era where, you know, opticals are being used and compositing is being used, and it all looks so beautiful. Like the matte paintings in this are so nostalgic. There's, you know, an era of film that died very shortly after this where those were always used. And, you know, there are movies now that are trying to bring it back in certain ways. But to me, there's nothing like seeing like a painted island of Neverland, you know, approaching in the distance, or when he climbs up on the rock and we see all of Neverland when he's in the Lost Boys lair or whatever.
When he's like lifted up in like the shell from the mermaids, because he was in a pool with mermaids 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, he was in an Olympic-sized swimming pool with a bunch of women who are making out with him,
giving him air.
I think Jason, you were like, why are they making out with her? He has a wife, and I'm like, they're giving him air, Jason. They're breathing for him.
They're saving his life.
I fully like forgot that that's what that was. Like
that humans can't breathe underwater.
Also, you can see the air bubbles. They're like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No, I just mean that like when I was a kid, I think that I never really put together, like I knew that they were giving him air, but like the scene is very sensual.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like with the music in it too, and like obviously they all look hot because they're mermaids.
He's having a good time. He's like smiling about it every time they kiss him. He's like,
exactly.
La la.
I remember this.
Yeah,
that. Also, see, definitely a fat suit. I'm telling you.
Definitely a fat suit. Yeah. Because he's a little chonky, but he's not chonky through the face.
No.
There was the funny thing. Tinkerbell shows up during this as well. That we get that funny scene where Shmi is holding a gun to Dr. Hook, Captain Hook's face with Tinkerbell in the middle, and then she flies away, and then he like switches the gun the other way because he's like, "You're pointing a gun in my
face." And he's like, "Now shoot it." Yeah.
And Captain Hook negotiates a deal with Peter after he can't reach his kids, which was always a heartbreaking.
Well, he negotiates it with
Tank.
Tinkerbell.
With Tank, yeah.
She's the one who lays down the rules, the ground rules, and they give him 3 days to become Peter Pan again, which is like wild. But he does it. He loses all of that weight somehow in 3 days.
They had a whole running sequence.
Yeah. He was only imagining the food he was eating, so he probably wasn't getting
starving and running. That'll do it. Dang.
So he ends up in the water. He bounces off the gangplank through all of this. He falls in the water. The mermaids save him, and he ends up in the Lost Boys hovel. And then we enter Rufio.
Yeah, there's a moment where they're chasing him around, and then Rufio shows up, and Rufio has his own theme song, which is cool. It's just a chant, Rufio, Rufio, Rufio. And then Peter goes, "Oh, that is so dangerous."
You are a dangerous boy.
Rufio, my childhood crush, loved Rufio. He is cool. He's got a cool costume. His
costume's sick.
Yeah, he's got sort of like a weird. I think it's supposed to be his hair, but it looks like almost like a helmet or like a headdress or something.
Like
it's giving like a bit like Lion King on stage, or like Cats.
Yeah.
It also ties into the fact that this almost was a musical and then did not end up being a musical. But you see the vibes there.
But also, like, I'm surprised nobody adapted this
to stage.
Yeah,
I know. But like, how do you top it though?
Well, remember,
that's true, but
I hated this movie.
That's true.
That's just it. And I think we were talking about it a little bit last night. Yeah. If this movie had been more of a cultural phenomenon, it'd be interesting because there would be like sequels now and all this other media and maybe like a cartoon.
I also thought it was a cultural phenomenon. Like at least
that's how we remember it.
No. It made lots of money. It made so much money. It only cost $70 million to make, and it made over $300 million
with those sets.
Yeah, so it definitely warranted the dollar figures to make sequels and to revisit the world if they wanted to, but nobody.
And Spielberg was like, "I hate it."
Yeah,
never again.
Yeah, Spielberg is the final say on his films, I assume, and he's maybe like a John Carpenter. You don't really see sequels to Spielberg movies, really. Except for Indy, but Indy I think was built to be that.
Yeah, he doesn't do tons of sequels. He has done sequels, but he doesn't do a lot of them. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And when he did The Lost World as well as Jurassic Park, but usually when he does sequels to stuff like Indiana Jones, it's a completely different adventure. It's not like an
Indiana Jones is an adventurer. Guy. Like it's made to be that. I think that if Hook came back in 1997, it would be like, how do you really do another story? You kind of told the story. You'd have to have a new
Hook at the end.
Like Jack, yeah, that too. But Jack's back, and son of Hook is there. There is that prequel that you guys were telling me about that I forgot, Pan, that I had forgot existed.
Oh,
when I was looking at images to like put in this, I noticed that it's like this short-haired, brooding looking kind of a guy.
That's like a prequel to the Peter Pan story. It's like when Pan and Hook were friends, or it's kind of dumb. Like I've seen it, but my brain refused to retain any of it. And
it doesn't really have any. Well, it's got a few people in it. It's got Rooney Mara and Amanda Seyfried and Cara Delevingne. So it's only
Hugh Jackman's in it too. He plays like the evil pirate.
Okay.
Yeah,
it does have a rad cover of "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah, but it's not the full song. It's only like 30 seconds of it.
But it's great for D&D purposes.
It is. Yeah, it's a good ramp up for a cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
I might revisit it one day because I honestly can't remember anything outside of that scene.
I'd like to watch it actually. But it looks very much a product of 2015, like from the stills I've seen. It looks like Captain Hook is gonna be all broody, and Peter Pan's a literal child. So, it might be closer to the actual Peter Pan story than.
Yeah, Hook doesn't have a hook hand. He just has a hook that he carries around and uses it as a way to rappel down ropes and stuff. Anyway, I think the answer to the Spielberg sequel stuff is that he basically he wants to make new things, right? Like he's like, I already told that story. I want to do something new, And like Jurassic.
I told Ready Player 2.
Well, I think Jurassic World or Jurassic World, no, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, that's what it's called. That was like, he only did that, I think, because he was worried that someone would mess it up. So he's like, if someone's going to mess it up, I'd rather it be me. And then after that, he was like, I'm not making any more of these.
Yeah, and I rewatched that. I hated that movie when it came out, but I rewatched it recently, and it's honestly not that bad. Like it's fun.
I saw that in theaters as well, and I was having the time of my life. I didn't see the first one in theaters because I was too scared. But then I watched it and was like, this was the greatest movie ever made. This is Star Wars. This is basically Star Wars. And then I was all in on Jurassic Park after that.
Interestingly enough, about Jurassic Park, it was 93. I was like 8. I was on a summer camp field trip to the movies. And we went to see Jurassic Park, and it was too scary for me. At 8 years old, I had to leave the theater, and it was right at the Dilophosaur sequence, which is straight horror. Like there's no
Jurassic Park is a horror movie.
Exactly. But the thing is they re-released it in like 2008 in 3D in theaters, and I got to go back and like watch it, and that movie in theaters is incredible. The sound design in a theater is so music, cool. And I got to see it in like 3D when 3D was like the top top technology in a theater.
I'd like to see that. I've never seen Jurassic Park, the first one, in theaters. I'd like to do that at some point. And I'm sure it'll happen before the death of cinema, right? Isn't it? Our movie theaters are all being burned down in 2026 or something.
I don't know. My prediction was pretty. It looks bad for the theater industry from my point of view, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure that's been predicted many times over before.
It's been predicted since the birth of cinema.
Exactly.
So they then have the moment where they do figure out that Peter is Peter Pan, and all thanks to one of the tiniest small boy who ever was a small boy. He's like, he does
give him a chance.
Yeah, he's like, just give him a chance. And Rufio draws a line with his sword, which is Peter Pan's sword. So Rufio, chill. Yeah. And, I thought Rufio was so cool as a kid, and watching this as an adult, I'm like,
kind of a dickhead.
Yeah, Rufio's like a shitty teenager that you don't like.
And also, like, I never really, the gravity of the fact that he was kind of the modern day de facto Peter Pan never really hit me until rewatching it like yesterday, He's
a skateboarding punk.
Yeah.
But he can't fly.
Oh, that's another cameo too.
Only Peter can fly.
Tony Hawk is a skateboarder in this movie as well.
Yeah.
I was joking.
It's definitely Tony Hawk.
I was joking when I said that.
Oh, because I thought I read. Oh man, you goose!
I didn't realize you. I didn't think you believed me yet. I was like, "Holy shit, that's Tony Hawk!" Just some kid on a half pipe. I don't think it was Tony Hawk.
Well, you wouldn't know the name of a half pipe if it wasn't for me telling you what a half pipe was.
I was like, "What's the tube? The half tube that they use?"
With the jumpy stuff.
Yeah.
God damn it! I was wondering why it wasn't mentioned in any of the lists of cameos. It's like that's so
lied
weird.
To you.
Thank you.
So the line is drawn in the sand, literally. Rufio says, if you're with me, you're on this side. If you're with Peter, you're on that side. And it's a very good visual moment. And the lighting in here is really nice and cool and dramatic. And the little kid starts, grabbing his face and stretching his crow's feet out, and he eventually stretches his face enough, and he's like, "Oh, you're there. You are, Peter. You're in there somewhere behind all this businessman."
It was honestly like that scene itself just like makes me misty-eyed immediately. Like there's something about those kids interacting too with Robin. Like he's giving them so much like space to just like play and do it. And he is so serious in that moment. Like you can see it in his eyes He's like, I don't understand, until he does, and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. And then this kid becomes a lawyer, basically, and he's like, he's stating Peter's case for him, trying to convince the jury of his peers.
I'm not that kind of lawyer.
And
don't mess with me. I'm a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer. Yeah. I forgot that he's a lawyer. He's not just a businessman after all. He's a lawyer, a business lawyer.
He's like a businessman that deals with like property
Selling
exchange.
land?
Yeah, like land.
He starts
land
listing
deeds.
it all off to Maggie Maggie Smith at the beginning, and it's like so boring that it's like, okay, how do we stop this? And it's like, oh, we'll have the kid jump in and say something stupid.
Yeah.
But the kid, it's funny. The joke about lawyers was so prevalent in the 90s that the kids like in this universe know what a lawyer is.
Like, oh.
Ew,
He's
lawyer.
Like, with business acquisitions, he comes in and he blows the opposition out of the water.
So basically a pirate.
Yeah,
basically a pirate.
And so this kid does a really good job of convincing his friends, the Lost Boys, to side with Peter. Though at the end of it, not everybody is on Peter's side. There's still people that are siding with Rufio. But Rufio agrees that he will help in the training process. Though during the training montage, he isn't really helping all that much. He's just doing the stuff that he's like, this will be fun for me. Like launching him from a giant slingshot.
He's like, I'm helping, I swear.
Yeah. And we get a nice training montage where
Just
we show that.
Though, I just wanted to mention the backward shot.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, so cool.
There's a shot where Rufio goes forward and brings the sword down to like a centimeter from Peter's face. And I guess last night we were going to talk about how we weren't going to destroy the movie magic of that, but I'm going to right now. Sorry, I'm going to pull the veil back. But
you did say we'll decide in the moment.
Yeah. I want to mention it because it is sort of part of the magic of Hook that Steven Spielberg decided that he wanted to do this like intense moment between Rufio and Peter, because Rufio's like, you're an old man and you're not coming back in here and trying to take my Lost Boys away from me. So he threatens him mortally. And when the sword comes down to his face, what they actually did is they filmed it in reverse. And you can see if you watch, I never noticed what Steve pointed out, that everybody in the background is sort of like janky and like has that backwards look. But if you look at Rufio's mouth, he had to like mouth it backwards.
Yeah,
what his lines were, and then it's 80 yard over with the line. When I was a kid, I was like, that looks weird. And then when the internet comes out, you can find all the information about everything constantly. And
this is one of those things
mind
that
was blown about.
This is one of those things that I kind of wish I had never learned, because it does.
But now everyone knows.
But now every time I see it, I think about it, and it takes me out of the moment knowing it, because I know it, because I'm no longer thinking like how cool the shot is. I'm just thinking about how they did the shot. And then when it ends with Rufio talking and you could just tell that he's like speaking backwards, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to live with this now. Yeah, it is cool. It's cool. It's a cool piece of information, but
and like also like film magic too, right? Like the little tips and tricks that you have to learn if you're going to be making a movie.
Yeah.
Got to think creatively.
And like I've edited before and had to reverse things in order to like get a shot that you don't have, like somebody having to look a certain direction in order for the pacing to work. You'll end up having to do weird trickery like that. Mm-hmm. So this being deliberately shot on purpose backwards, it is as good as it can be. Like it looks really great considering. But they do it all the time, right? Like Home Alone, they do the same thing when the car almost hits Kevin McAllister. That's all in reverse, right? So because they can't just almost run over Macaulay Culkin for a movie.
When Harry and Merv almost hit him.
Yeah, that's in reverse as well. That they've got people moving the car and then they stop and then they drive backwards.
Yeah.
But that one is less obvious to me because there's no talking and there's no.
He just screams at the back of the van.
Yeah,
but the thing about this scene is it kind of reminds me of that earlier scene with the hook, where it's a very special, stylized sort of moment.
Yeah, every character kind of has their like iconic second, if not a couple seconds.
Yeah,
that sticks forever.
Steve took his headset off. He's like, no.
He's like, I don't know what he said.
I had itchy head.
Yeah.
I had to scratch. So, yeah, no, I think it's probably one of the most beautiful shots in the movie. I just wish I never watched that fucking YouTube video that explained it. Ruined it for me.
Well, we can move on from that. We're over to Shmi.
Well, you don't want me to talk about how the Tusken Raider is backwards in Star Wars?
I do, actually. I actually do want to know about the Tusken Raiders in Star Wars being backwards.
It's just the shot when Luke gets knocked over. The guy, when they filmed it, he only did it once. Yeah, but they reversed it, so he does it multiple times because it wasn't enough screaming to be scary.
Always more screams.
That's another one that when I learned that, when I watch Star Wars, I'm like, oh, well, there it is. There's the backward shot. I can see it. It's obvious to me now.
Yeah.
Forever. But yeah, so we get our. I can't remember if the scene in the classroom is first or if it's the training montage. No, it's when Smee and Captain Hook speak.
Yeah, Shmi has an apostrophe.
An apostrophe. Also, like, just Hook being the most dramatic bitch there has ever been on the face of the planet, and I love it.
Get over here, Smee.
I'm gonna do it. Smee. I'm gonna stop me, Smee.
He hates those kids so much that he's like, I'm just gonna fucking blow my brains out right now.
Like,
credits.
This is the only adventure I have left.
So
Don't
funny.
You
All like
dare
the
try to
mirrors
stop
looking
me,
at him.
Smee. Try to stop me, Smee. Try to stop me. What?
Think
Get
about
over here, Smee. Get up off your ass. I'm committing suicide, Smee.
Think about the chain of events, though. If he blows his own brains out right there, Peter never becomes Peter Pan again. Still has a dog shit.
Neverland forever.
Neverland has a dog shit relationship with his son. Maybe never finds his son.
Jack then actually does become Hook.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
the cycle continues.
And the cycle continues. Yeah. That's pretty fucked up right there, Cass.
Rufio kills Pan.
Yeah. I watched a lot of
Jack
horror
versus
movies
Rufio.
as a kid. I'm a little bit.
The status quo is just kept in this alternate timeline. You know, the world loves multiverses, so let's put that movie together and put that out.
So Smee convinces Captain Hook to make Peter Pan's kids fall in love with him, which then Captain Hook takes credit for the idea and is like, I've just had a wonderful idea, Smee. And then
He's like, I also hate kids.
I hate children. I hate Peter Pan. But he's through. The reason I remembered the order of these scenes, I've watched this movie so many times. I was like, is it the montage first or is it
the montage is next?
No, I know. I'm trying to explain to you the reason that I remembered the order, which is I was like, what happens? Okay, is it the classroom scene or is it the part where it's the part where they convince Captain Hook to make the kids love him. And the reason that I remembered is because the montage scene starts with Captain Hook going and then it goes from that weird laugh into the chant
immediately.
It's like into the chant of the montage,
which honestly brilliant. Like what a transition.
Very
seamless.
good transition. Yeah, so good that it helps me remember the order of the film we're watching.
Yeah, it's almost like the movie was good and we actually remembered all the parts.
It's almost like it doesn't deserve a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Almost.
Yeah, that's baffling.
And to be hated by some movie critics who I have the utmost respect for and agree with on so many things.
Not this one.
This movie, and I'm like, why? You're hurting my heart, man. Don't say that to me. So the montage, we don't really need to talk about it. It's funny.
No, there's not
Mostly
much
just comedy.
Yeah.
It's funny and it's good, but the purpose of it is to get Peter to be exhausted, right? So that we can have an extremely exhausted and sore Peter Pan, who is craving food, who is like, I need to nourish my aching body with
Can I just real quick, since we're still tangentially on the idea of the critics not liking this movie, I just, for shits and gigs, I looked up Roger Ebert's review.
Mm-hmm.
He gave it a thumbs up, but he also gave it 2 stars. So I think there was
rude.
What is his star rating out of 5?
Yeah, it was a 5-star rating. Yeah,
I mean 2 is. This is why I hate rating systems. I think it's so stupid. It's like, listen, I've told you this before, Jason. This is not news to you. I think it's a poor way. It's a poor way to explain how you feel about something. Giving it a number doesn't make sense to me. I think that a 3-hour discussion is a much better way of telling someone how you
we always manage to at least hit the 3-hour mark. So like, let's keep it up.
But also like a 3-star should be the movie was okay. That's what a 3-star should mean. And a 2-star would mean it's all right. It's not terrible. A 1-star would be it's bad. You know, like that's how it should work. So a 2-star doesn't mean it's bad. It should.
But he also Roger Ebert and Siskel had the thumbs up, thumbs down system.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I think a thumbs up at least is like, I think it's good enough to go see, you know, like that's if I give it a thumbs down, it means by no means should you watch this. A thumbs up would be, yeah, go see it if you want it. Don't listen to me. I'm Roger Ebert, famous movie critic on television or whatever.
This review isn't that long, but I'm not going to read it, but he basically is saying that like, you know, the ads make it seem like, what if Peter Pan grew up? But also it's kind of a bad way to tell this story, which I disagree with vehemently. But he sort of just kind of goes on to talk about how it's just kind of a mess of ideas, which I can kind of see. But I don't know.
Well, you know what? He's fucking dead, so who gives a shit?
He's fucking dead. He was only relevant in the 90s.
Now, this is why I didn't want to read any of the poor reviews, because I'm like, I don't particularly care, and I don't want it to affect how I feel about something that I like. So, if I agreed with him on every single review, he's one of those movie reviewers that I typically am shocked at the things that he doesn't like, and sometimes surprised at the things that he does. And then same with the other guy who was on the show, Siskel or whatever. But Siskel, I think, was more the bad boy, and he hated everything or whatever. It's like every movie sucks. Thumbs down.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought Ebert was the more poignant, like, down voter, and Siskel was like, I was fine.
No, I think I'm right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that
I used to watch that shit and I forget all of it. And Leonard Maltin was like the third one, and he was writing books and stuff, and was more analytical.
And he, instead of using a thumb, he would use the middle finger.
I give a middle finger up or down.
Yeah.
I give it a middle finger out of a fist.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this is the famous scene. This is the scene that everybody remembers. This is the scene that was in the trailers and stuff that made the movie look so cool. The feast, the imagination feast. Yep. Which has a really good parody by a couple of the guys who are on SNL now. I think I showed you Cass one time. I was like, you gotta watch this. You gotta watch this. It's so funny. They're basically spoofing this. They're basically spoofing this scene, except like, you know, it cuts to the one guy and he's like, are you smoking a cigar? And it cuts back to him and he has a real cigar. And then he's like pretending to make out with somebody.
I'll be right back.
Like, are you making out with somebody? And then it cuts to like a woman just standing next to him, but he's still pretending to make out with her.
So good. Also, I think this was like the ultimate introduction of every kid who like grew up like Catholic or whatever at their Christmas dinner, and their parents being like, don't say it. We're like, we got to say grace. Don't be a little shit. And they're like, grace, eating. Like, this is why this happened. It's because of this movie. Which is awesome.
I did not experience that growing up, but I can see. I did have some cousins who I think they said grace at meals, but I remember one of them one time said like rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, and his dad smacked him in the face.
Yeah, I believe that.
Fuck.
But that is comedy gold. Comedy gold. I love that. I would have rewarded that behavior so quickly.
Yeah.
Have a Trito, just for you.
So
I definitely experienced that. I definitely experienced
the grace thing.
Oh, Jason's gone forever.
We lost him.
I think he closed his browser by mistake instead of just sitting down next to his computer.
Wait, does that mean that we're not recording? Oh no, we're still.
No, we're still streaming. So this, the sequence is. It's funny, you know. It starts with, you know, them eating a bunch of bowls of steam, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a kid, I was like, "How'd the steam get in there? What's the steam for? Yeah. Why would they fill them with steam? They can imagine all this food, but they can't imagine steam. What the heck?"
So good.
But you know, he then gets into a word war with Rufio,
which is just actually the best. Like Peter, hello.
The fuck? That was weird.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
It also like just erased my background.
Your background? I like your pictures though. Those are cute. Oh yeah, well, hello, it's my face
picture of you. Yeah.
Here's my gallery.
No, it's nice. I like it.
There's no Jawas up there. What the heck's going on?
Well, you haven't made any prints yet.
There's prints on Redbubble. You gotta buy them.
Oh.
I'm just joking.
I would actually love to get a bunch of those and like have like a little mini. I would do it. Steven, I'm gonna do it.
I think Danny bought stickers and put them on like water bottles and stuff.
So cute. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, you can get magnets and stickers and coffee mugs and all sorts of stuff. I have it placed. I have put all of them on pretty much every item you can get except for like a shower curtain, because I don't know who would want to buy a shower.
But I needed a new shower curtain, Steven.
Okay. I'll add it on there.
A Jawa curtain.
Thank you.
It's a Jawa curtain. So we were just explaining. I was just saying how why do these guys add steam to the bowls, the empty bowls? Do they need to imagine steam? I don't understand. Obviously, it's just visually appealing for the movie.
And also, it's like, I think to me, at least as a kid, and even now watching it, sorry, my cat is crawling all over me, is like the fact that the food actually was real. Like the steam is coming from the real food. Like it's absolutely 100% there.
I guess. I thought they were imagining
the only way that my brain like fathomed it.
I mean, the reality is
like,
that
why is there steam? But there's nothing here. That's fucking weird.
The reality is that Steven Spielberg wanted this shot to be more interesting, so he's like, let's add steam. That's what happened.
And honestly, it's pretty interesting.
It is.
So
it's really cool looking steam. He gets mad because I think he says Gandhi ate more than this or something like that. He's like, I'm fucking hungry. I just want a burger or something or steak. And
then
Rufio basically says like, you know what, man, go fuck yourself. Like, we're all eating. We don't need the real food. We can imagine it. And we're all still here. We do this every night.
Do you know what his first insult is off the top of your head?
Oh, man.
Because it's good. It's like the classic, like, kid kind of comeback. He calls him a bubble butt at some point.
Calls him like an unpopped zit or something.
Yeah.
I have a list of them.
They're so
on
funny.
both your houses. Addle-headed simpleton, barnacle-riddled lummox, beady-eyed, brain-dead troglodyte, blathering Tommy
substitute chemistry teacher,
but blubbering blubber hunter.
Chemistry teacher is like, all the kids are like, oh, that's bad. You got to come up with something to fight that.
Brat-sized, bagoong-eating bootlick that even a rain-necked, lollygagging shore loafer would disdain to dry dock.
None of this is in the movie.
Bricklayer's clerk.
You just looked up a random list of insults. None of this is in the movie. None of this is in the movie.
You were there, Jason. You were there last night.
That's right. I'm confused. Oh, here we go.
Nearsighted gynecologist. I remember that one.
That one's good too.
Guaranteed, like Robin just made that up. Tutor, pinhead, prison barber,
you rude, crude dude full of pre-chewed food. I remember that.
Yeah,
that one's good. Yeah.
Lewd, crude, rude bag of pre-chewed food, dude.
Yeah. Prison barber is good too.
In your face, camel cake. In your rear, cow derriere.
Yeah.
What the fuck was I reading? What was that other list?
That was like, I don't know. Sounded like something from Shakespeare.
Yeah. The internet was
heard out, you prick. I think it was from Shakespeare, and this might be a reference to literally Shakespeare.
Probably.
Maybe.
It might be like the same kind of, what is it called? It's sonnets, but like the same like rhyming scheme of like, it's like the 6/4 whatever.
Right.
Shakespeare stuff. Might have been
prose.
And then he basically says him that he's a guy suffering of Peter Pan envy and he can't fly, and then everybody is just like, whoa.
Come here, fastball, death brain, you punchy sag bottom puke pot.
That's good.
And then he mimes hitting him with food, which then unlocks the ability to summon magical food. And everybody,
magic.
Everybody's like, "You're doing it, Peter. You're doing it.
You're doing it, Peter." And simultaneously to this, the daughter, the little girl, starts singing "Somewhere Out There," but not really.
Is that the same moment?
Yeah.
No, is it like right after? Because they talk about mom. After this, yeah. Oh yeah, because like the really adorable kid is like, my happy thought is my mother. Do you know your mother, Peter? And he's like, I don't know. And then his daughter's singing his mom's song.
And she's singing Karma's a Bitch on the pier.
Karma's a bitch.
I shouldn't have sung this.
Yeah, sorry.
I regret this.
She's like, I just can't wait.
Nope.
We're stuck. We're stuck in a loop.
Brain rot.
But she was amazing and she's so cute. And oh my God, the casting of these children. Like I am not a kid person. I don't hate kids, but I don't have a lot of them in my life. All of those kids are the cutest kids I've ever seen in my whole life. Like they're just adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, they all break my heart.
Who wants to visit the Four Seasons Orlando?
Me. At Super Kick on Friday, I said, just like a kid, just like a baby, just like
You'll
a
get
fully
there, Jason,
conscious baby. I'm on it. Just like a fully conscious baby who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando. I don't give a fuck tonight. That's sort of how I started the show.
What you should have done was say, and before we begin, I just have one question for you all. Who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando? And then everybody in the audience would go, me.
I'm
gonna do
fingers, and he's like, just kidding, I'm actually a baby.
Yeah, I am a
look
baby.
At me.
I'm gonna do a meme every month now.
You must. It's the time.
Yeah, show them my brain rot and how brain is rotten.
You show up on stage covered in peanut butter and just go.
This has been Meme Corner here on Hey, did you see this one? Oh my
Every
God.
time I see it, it literally brings my heart so much joy.
I'm
like, that's me. I relate.
We're like Hurricane Tortilla.
Hurricane Tortilla.
We get the hook clock scene. Cork on a hook.
Yes.
The next morning they go to the clock smashing room. I mentioned to you guys that this reminded me of the thing in Toronto that you can go to a rage room, I believe you guys called it. I was sure that they didn't exist anymore, and they seemed like a kind of a passing phase, but you guys reassured me that you could still go do that at any time.
And now they have like glow in the dark versions.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
It's like laser bowling or whatever.
Laser bowling, yeah. Cosmic bowling.
Welcome to the Laser Bowl.
Laser bowling.
Yeah. It's Friday night, and we got DJ No Eyes here at the Laser Bowl.
I have no eyes.
Who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando?
Yeah, we lost the plot.
I'm looking for a man in finance.
No, he smashes the He smashes the clocks, and he's like, "This is for never letting me blow bubbles in my chocolate milk. This is for never letting me jump on my own bed." And then he has a mental breakdown, and he gives
that scene.
He breaks so hard.
Good performance.
This kid is a very good actor.
Child
I
acting.
hope that his childhood was okay, because I'm like, you're actually doing so good that I'm like, does your dad like hug you at all? Like, please tell me he does, because this is so sad.
Some kids can just summon it, man. Some kids can just summon it. I would say that we've done a few movies on the show that have had child actors in them, and of varying degrees of
who, for lack of a better phrase, were dog shit.
I mean, we did Stand By Me, and Stand By Me is full of good performances and bad performances. There's a scene where River Phoenix is breaking down, and it's extremely heartbreaking. And it again, you're like, this kid must have real trauma to be able to. But
Jerry O'Connell's kind of handed
surprise, yes, he did.
But then Corey Feldman has a scene where he's supposed to be crying, and he's absolutely shitting the bed on the performance. Like he's like doing the classic like pretend cry where he buries his face and is just like. But then you got like E.T. where Elliot, he does both of those in the movie. He cries for real, and it's an amazing performance. But then he also does fake crying at points that contrast the performance in a way that you're like, oh yeah, this is what it looks like when he's acting, and this is what it looks like when he's acting like he's acting.
Yeah. When he's like, I've had a long day on set and I am a child.
Yeah,
I'm tired. I
want to blow bubbles with my chocolate milk.
Exactly. Smashes a clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a very good TikTok of a woman who's like, tell me a performance that doesn't get enough credit. And then she it cuts to her and she's wearing a baseball hat. She's like, and you were there, and we were there, and you didn't even try. But she pulls the hat down. I'm like, this is amazing.
It's so cute.
This performance.
Kid from Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
We did mention that already, Tim. We talked about this kid being in other movies, and
Dick Tracy is a movie that we should probably cover on the show at some point.
I think we have to figure out a month to do it in, but I think we could build a whole month around like maybe like film noir or something.
Yeah,
and do Dick Tracy.
We'll talk about it off mic, but yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have a meeting right now, Cass. You're part of it.
I'm here. I'm part of it. No, I will say just before we leave the scene, like I was telling you guys this last night too, but I remember being a kid watching this and multiple times watching this and like realizing how easy it was for Jack to forget because Hook makes the most incredible, truthful points the entire time. He's like full, just like brainwashing this kid, being like, come to me and like forget your father. But like he wasn't wrong. His dad wasn't there for him and like didn't give him the things that he needed as a kid. And that's not fair. And I'm like, Hook, I get it. I get it. You're
he's also using that information to manipulate.
Exactly.
This is narcissistic behavior. Yeah.
We don't do this, but you're kind of right.
Yeah. Rather than trying to help Jack, he's just trying to turn Jack. He's not. He has absolutely no interest in Jack at all.
No, and also like a kid also won't like see that, right? Like they won't be able to read between the lines.
No, of course. Yeah.
Oh, this man is just like telling me what I want to hear.
He's basically he's not lying to him in any way. He's just using the truth as a weapon, which is right.
Horrible, villainous.
Villainous, you would say. Captain Hook, a villain? No.
Peter? No. You're Peter? No. Yes. No. Yes. No. One of my favorite parts. Sorry.
So, also the cork on the hook while he sleeps is so funny to me.
So good.
Because it's already established multiple times in the movie that he can remove the hook, but he decides he's going to sleep with it on, with a cork and a bag on it. Very funny.
Can't poke out his eye.
Yeah. Just in case he scratches himself in his sleep.
That's what we were joking about, right?
Yeah, but it's like he can take it off easily. he could just leave it on his bedstand. Anyway.
Oh, I also wanted to. This is a good point from Tim. But what I wanted to say though is the part where Jack is dressed up like Hook, and also the relationship between Captain Hook and Jack is sort of very like Luke, I am your father in a lot of ways. Like maybe not exactly, obviously, but it does have that like undertone of like join the dark side.
Yeah.
Sure. And also he's giving him everything he wanted. Like even like as I don't know if actually we're there yet. I hope I'm not going too far ahead. But like
let him blow bubbles in his chocolate milk.
Jack doing like this whole baseball thing, and Captain Hook obviously in charge of everything, being like, yes, play baseball. I don't know what that is, but according to Master Jack's rules, play. And like the moment any pirate starts acting up or changing the rules, he's like, absolutely not. I am running a scheme.
He's trying
to dare
you. That is the next sequence, the Run Home Jack bit.
Run home, Jack.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have the baseball game where it's like Jack and the pirates just playing baseball. It's a long sequence, but it sort of hits home that like Jack is feeling acceptance from a father figure, sort of a person.
He's so groomy and gaslighty and manipulative.
That's the part that's fucked up, right? Like
of course that kid just needed that.
This is a movie about a weird old pirate captain trying to groom a kid into being his son.
Yeah. Just to get revenge.
Yeah, just to break his enemy. He's doing it as revenge. Yeah. And then the Lost Boys come up with a brilliant plan. I know, we'll steal Captain Hook's hook. Like the most childish thing to do, you know, like we're gonna steal his hook. And then what? I don't know, throw it in the water or something. Mm-hmm. He's definitely got more than one hook. He's probably got a whole closet. You see how many shoes he has? The same pair?
I was gonna say, like, it's weird. I wonder if there's a cutting room floor scene where they open like a cabinet and there's just all kinds of different hooks, like Batman style, where they all do different things.
One's a grappling hook.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's like when it shoots out, it's like an old timey rope.
And he just flies away. He's like, bye.
Me, bring me my grappling hook. Yeah, I mean that's something that I kind of would like to see though, with just a closet, because he has the one that for the chalk, right, where he's like writing. So he's probably got a bunch of other weird ones.
These are your next drawings. It's after the Jawas. It's all the different hook gadgets.
All the different hooks.
Inspector Gadget, but Captain Hook.
Just have to draw Dustin Hoffman over and over and over, which I'm here for. I think that would be funny.
Yeah.
And great and good.
Well, we'll see what comes of it. Maybe I'll do a hook series. Hooks.
Looky, brand new episode.
Looky, I got a hooky.
Thanks, Dribble.
So yeah, the baseball sequence is fun. I love that when the guy's stealing a base, they shoot him. Like they just kill him. Like, you can't steal a second. And then it's also the reveal of the Lost Boys is so funny. Like, they're dressed as pirates, but it's like they do the classic, like one of them is standing on the shoulders of the other one and they're like wobbling and they just look weird and awkward and they're wearing fake beards.
It's so well done.
Yeah. And then we get the run home Jack moment, which is something, again, there's iconography from this movie that just like sticks in your head forever. And home run Jack, run home Jack is one of those things that no matter what, if you've seen Hook, you'll remember that moment because it's pretty powerful.
Heart shattering. And just again, like, I don't know the actor's name because I'm the worst, but the guy who plays Jack, like, even just that one shot up close of him, you can see the wheels turning and like connecting the dots. And then he's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to just like see that realization on his face.
And then he tries to run home. So where are we at now?
Oh, and then he blasts a fucking baseball into the
space.
sun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It goes so high that it takes like a full day for it to come down and hit Peter in the head.
So good. And the sound effects.
Yeah.
That's the thing that happens here. We get the baseball sequence, and then Peter's pissed, and he's trying to fly. This is the part where he's like trying to fly, and the baseball just like comes back from orbit, and beans him on the head, and then he finds that like mystery Zelda tree. He finds basically the Deku tree from Zelda, and then he sees it's Tinkerbell's home. She lives in the Deku tree.
Sorry, I was about to take a bite of a sandwich. Did you say Deku tree?
Yeah.
Deku tree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. I was like, I'm wearing my Zelda shirt today. I don't understand.
Oh, nice. I didn't see that, and I'm sorry. I've called it the Deku tree my whole life. I know it's the Deku tree, but it's one of those like Mario versus Mario things. So
understood. No, it just took me off guard. I was about to like take a bite of a sandwich, and I was like,
how dare you say that?
You did a sitcom spit take, but like one of the other versions of it.
Just like, a bunch of lettuce and tomato coming out of your mouth.
The fuck did this guy just say?
The offense.
He calls himself a dork.
Right.
Real geek over here.
That reminds me. There's a TikTok the other day of like some guys going around being like, "What are your pronouns?" And the first guy he asks is like this tiny little dork in a blue
I don't actually subscribe to that game.
I don't play the I don't subscribe to the pronoun game. And so I commented on the video and I said, he looks like his pronouns are dweeb/dwerb.
Yeah.
And I thought it was
This is actually a good point here from Tim. Robin Williams' daughter is named Zelda after the Zelda games because very famously Robin Williams would play Zelda on set while he was waiting for scenes.
He loved Zelda.
The series. And it's really interesting because this movie is kind of like, it's got a lot of Zelda iconography stuff going on. The Deku tree, his costume is kind of like, I feel like Zelda, this is a joke we were making that like Link is sort of Japanese Peter Pan.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
he's in Hyrule is kind of a Neverland.
Character design and like stuff like that. I mean, very different
I
stories.
think that's
but...
even what's his name? The guy who invented Zelda. What's his name? Miyamoto. Yeah. I think he's even said that like Western fairy tale stories were a huge influence on Zelda, which is why it is so appealing to like everybody across the world, is because it takes in cultural influence from everywhere. You know, it's not just like a Japanese fantasy, it's not just a Western fantasy, it's a hybrid of both, which is why I think so many people can so easily lock into it. But yeah, for sure, even just like the color scheme of Link and Pan are similar, and the Lost Boys live in, you know, nature and tree houses and they never grow up, and that's very much like the
Wendy is like from the original animated, who's kind of like a Princess Zelda figure in the universe. Yeah.
Anyway,
Princess of Neverland.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's similarities, but yeah, it's more than reasonable to assume that Peter Pan had an influence on the inception of Zelda.
For sure. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, Tim. We talked about that last night while we were watching the movie, but we didn't really dial into it yet.
I just also want to make a quick correction. This is not Tinkerbell's home. This is where Wendy and her brothers and everyone lived in like the original story. They lived inside this tree.
Okay.
Also, it's the same in the animated film, right? Like they all like had their own little bunks inside the tree, and they were like,
yes. Actually, now that you, right? Sorry about that.
And I explained this to you guys last night. Like, you know, I worked as like a puzzle designer for years and years and years, but I've always kind of been like a puzzly kid even since I was a child. And I remember watching this movie and being like, how did he solve the puzzle? Like the door to get in, it's like you just have to press a button and it opens, but I thought it was a puzzle. And so like for years and years and years I was like, I don't understand how this puzzle works. How the fuck did he solve this
breaking your brain, being like, there must be a way. He was just so
something
smart.
To do with the words, the code, and it's like I thought, you know, even my brain reconstructs that scene so that I remember it differently, of him having to press a sequence of buttons on the thing in order for it to open. No, he just presses one thing and it locks in place and opens.
That's the other thing about this movie too, is that like I don't know like many people who I guess watch it as an adult, other than I guess like my parents and my aunts and uncles. I would love to get their take on it actually. But the thing with watching this movie with kid brain is that there was so much imagination already on the screen that you still see as an adult. So like having a kid watch it, you are actually trying to piece together, like you feel like you're part of the story because it's so like visceral. So like it makes sense that you would have all these like kind of new ideas that tied in, because you were like, that's how I would have done it, and like I'm Peter in this moment, because it drew you in like that. Good storytelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a storybook come to life for sure.
It's freaking magical, guys.
It's magic.
If you don't like Hook,
get out.
You got unresolved childhood issues, bro. You got trauma you need to look into.
And if you like Hook, you probably have unresolved childhood
most definitely
as well. So you can't win.
If you hate Hook, you probably had a perfect childhood. You sick.
Tinkerbell has a dress on. She's sort of got a weird kind of vibe like from here on out towards Peter.
She's in love with Peter.
Yeah.
Also, it's like giving like wedding dress, and I'm like, girl, okay.
He's married. I mean, he's already got a wife. Sorry, Tink.
It's at least a prom dress.
Yeah.
I made this prom dress out of, I don't know, aluminum cans.
An old garbage that I found around the old hovel. And then
like bioluminescent jellyfish.
Yeah, I like that actually.
Mermaid scales. I shaved a mermaid's butt for this dress.
She did not like that. She was like, I love you, Tink, but I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, you didn't tell me you're gonna make a dress of my butt flakes.
Butt flakes.
My butt scales.
Yeah.
We get the big flashback that sort of reveals all at this point too.
Water. I'll be right back.
We see Peter, basically he gets separated from his birth parents. He gets taken to Neverland by Tinkerbell, I believe, who like finds him. He has basically the same origin story as the Penguin from Batman Returns, which was kind of interesting.
I was watching it last night. We're like, the pigeons could be the penguins. He's a baby. He doesn't know that's a bird.
Exactly.
That's a bird.
Exactly. This movie is basically an alternate multiverse timeline to Batman Forever, except for instead of becoming Batman, he becomes Peter Pan.
Honestly, so much more rad.
The pigeon.
Like, I'd be Peter Pan in a heartbeat. What?
He gets licked by a bunch of pigeons and becomes the pigeon. Gwyneth Paltrow is young Wendy. He remembers everything from this sort of this memory of him as a kid interacting with young Wendy.
He has an apostrophe.
Yeah, he has an apostrophe. We basically see like a quick moment from sort of the original story, and then he can fly now. We get the great sequence of him like flying around, and all the Lost Boys are freaking out. And then he cuts Rufio's pants off, and we see his little outline. And
it's tights. Everybody has tights. The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
I also will say Oh my god, sorry, my cat ripped my headphones out of my ears. She literally is walking across me. I'm gonna show you guys a picture later. She's been like curled up here, but basically the entire time, and now she's
It's
impatient.
magical. I love
It's
that.
magic.
Magic.
But last night we were talking about like the happy thought, and I think Stephen, you were the one that said it, and you were like, yeah, it took him 3 days to think that maybe he loves his son, and that's his happy thought.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Is tough.
Yeah. I mean, wait a second. My happy thought all along was that I love my children. It's like, dude,
like,
specifically his son. Yeah, he didn't have a memory of his other child.
Maggie, forgotten.
He has no relationship with that daughter. Now that I'm really thinking about it, she doesn't even. She's like doesn't care. She likes the mom, and her and the mom have a good relationship.
Remember when he's trying to reach out to her, and she's like, "Come on, Daddy, Mommy could do it." Like when he can't reach.
He's like.
Also, like, Mommy could do it. She'd be like, those are my kids. Get back. But it's also interesting, too, to, like, actually see that parallel. I didn't kind of clock it before. But, like, Mom is there for plot device. Also amazing acting, so that's great. And then Maggie is kind of the same thing. Like, she's doing the same thing for Jack. Being like, remember who you are. Don't forget who you are. That's our dad. We got to get out of here. Yeah. And then they just have, like, the same journey together. It's Jack and Peter. Crazy. Mirrors. I love them.
That's true.
I shower.
I mean, like story mirrors.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Those are fun.
But we get like a classic sprint to the finish here because.
Well, I was going to mention that, but just before that, Tinkerbell.
that's Rufio.
Tinkerbell, yeah. Rufio's Tinkerbell. I forgot about us talking about that.
Oh, we were talking about doing like a full like drag performance parody pantomime last night.
Yeah, Tinkerbell.
Honestly,
I said that would be a great.
It would sell very well.
That'd be a great drag name, Tinkerbell.
I guarantee that's been done. It must have been done.
Someone's thought of it.
We're funny, but we're not that
original.
Twinkerbell.
Oh, I wrote. It says Tinkerbell right here. That's why I got confused.
I knew you wrote it down too. I was like, it's gonna come up.
I know, Google. You don't really get anything. Tink goes big, and basically, it's like, "I love you" to Peter, and he's like, "You're a tiny insect woman. I have a wife, and also you're 7, and I'm 49."
She's like ancient. She's centuries old.
Yeah, but
I get
she's
it.
in the body of Julia Roberts.
Like,
Power of worlds.
Still not okay.
Destroyer of worlds, eater of destruction.
Personally, this is one of the moments in the movie that I don't
block out.
I don't think it needs to be here.
It makes me. It's always made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it doesn't accomplish anything either, other than like show that Peter is starting to forget who he is outside of Neverland. All the memories have come flooding back, and he is now forgetting that he has a wife and that his kids are there.
Because they didn't even have a thing back then.
But
him and Wendy had the thing in the original story.
The thing here, though, is that you don't need this because it doesn't go anywhere. It's contained completely within this scene, and if you were to take this scene out, nothing would change. It doesn't matter.
There's also something last night too. Oh, sorry, Stephen, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, if there was a complaint I could make about this movie, it's that this sequence right here does not need to exist at all, and it's kind of lengthy. And this is one of those moments that when I was a kid, my brain would start to shut off, and I'd be like, "Oh, my fingernails! I can touch them to each other." So yeah, and I mean, like, it's there. I think maybe to service Julia Roberts in a way, like she doesn't have a ton.
She did really crush.
She did shoehorn in a love story too, a little bit, maybe just to.
But again, it doesn't go anywhere.
The general audience.
It's
last night, I was like, it was also in that time, like era of film and anything that it was like, we can't have 2 leads just be friends if they're opposite sex. Like, I just really wish the whole thing, and I said this last night, but I'll say it because now I'm online, is like, I just wish they were good friends that like took care of each other.
Exactly.
It was like, I've got you. We're going to get your memories back. I'm here to support you the whole way through. And that's it. It doesn't have to be romantic. It's just.
I had a similar thing with Galaxy Quest last week where I don't think it was necessary to have Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen kiss at the end. Like I get that they probably had unrequited love for their whole careers together, right? But
it didn't have to be a whole moment.
It felt.
I mean, in Galaxy Quest, it's more appropriate because it's there throughout the entire movie.
It's more appropriate, absolutely.
This is not there.
It was a 90s trope. like you said, Cass, the two
It still
leads have to
exists.
have some sort of.
It
You
still
can't have a
exists.
female and a male be best friends unless one of them is gay. It's like the rule of
Ridiculous.
movies.
That's so
Um,
silly. And
That's
it perpetuates
showbiz, kid.
real life too, right? Like you see like all these people being like, I can't trust my man if he has a friend who's a girl, and I can't trust my girl if she has a friend who's a guy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Maybe you're just hanging out with bad people who are
Yeah. I
not
think that's
nice
a you
to each
problem.
other.
Yeah, like it sounds like you and your friends all fuck each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if like that's consensual, that's what you do. Like, do your thing. But
Do
like,
your
if somebody's
thing,
upset about it,
baby
clearly
boo.
there's an issue.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. It sounds like you and all your friends fuck each other behind each other's backs with it.
That's
It's terrible.
Some Vanderpump rules up in here. Yeah.
Wow. Spoiler
Anyway,
for Vanderpump Rules, I
so
suppose.
the point that I wanted to make was that
Old drama.
this sequence seems like it's there to service Julia Roberts being in the movie to give her more to do, because I mean she was one of the biggest stars on the planet at this time,
Right.
and I think that them having her, it's like, well, we need to give her more to do, even though it's not appropriate for the story, and it doesn't really need to be there.
I also wonder too, because I remember I was telling you guys this, and I wish I'd looked deeper into it before I started tonight. But I know that Julia Roberts and Steven Spielberg did not have a good time on the set together. Like there was a lot of like butting heads and differences, and I don't know exactly what happened. I think they like aired it out later on and they were like chill again, but working on the set was really hard for her. And I'm wondering if like maybe it was this scene in particular, or maybe this was put in to be like, hey, like more screen time. I don't know. But it does always feel out of place, and it's always felt out of place to me.
Yeah, I don't have enough information to speak to that, but I mean, it's possible. But speculation, like it's always been like a weird thing where Julia Roberts has had sort of a reputation of being difficult, but like from what I've seen of her in her like presence in social media and stuff, I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily fact. It might just be that like a few people have had bad experiences with her because she's a human being, you know, like
yeah, she seems real. And
yeah,
like unfortunately the entertainment industry is filled with a lot of people who are not real. And if
Yeah.
you're a real person, that is really hard to do.
that means you're difficult to work with if you have actual emotion.
Blacklisted for having opinions. Yeah, you know.
But you know, if you meet people in real life who you have difficulties with every single day, but you don't go write about it in a globally publicized article or something to be like, Cass is difficult to work with because she didn't help me bust my table when it was really busy. So
maybe I was busy, Steven.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't bring it up again.
But it's my perspective is that you're difficult to work with.
Listen, we don't have to get into all your interpersonal dramas. We're coming
Also,
up on
that
3
never
hours.
happened. This was sketch.
This is a fake story that I'm making.
Oh, well, it was very funny.
We did work together though, and it was lovely.
The Lost Boys get ready with their awesome gear. They put on their cool gears. We get there's the score in this movie is amazing. It's John Williams. I don't know if we touched on that at all.
I mean,
above and beyond once again.
The mural stuff and the
Oh
so
yes,
sorry,
when
there's
magic happens. Pete fights the crew. There's an epic battle between the Lost Boys and Hook's pirates. We got Hook versus Rufio. I wrote it. I spelt it wrong, so I read it phonetically.
Deku Tree and Rufio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, Rufio is Rufio's dog.
Yeah. Looky. Yeah, I got Hooky. Iconic line. Why did I write Chef's finger? Oh, Chef's fingers.
It's Chef's fingers.
Cass said Chef's fingers instead of Chef's kiss, and I laughed out loud because I'm like, I hate when people say Chef's kiss. I don't know why. I think it's just like people have
Chef's
done
fingers
it so much over the last like 10 years that I'm like, someone saying Chef fingers is way funnier to me than Chef's kiss.
I've got a funny little story about Chef's kiss. I'm like 14. And I'm at my grandmother's, and my dad and his buddy from childhood take me to like this other guy's house. And the guy that they take me to his house is the guy who allegedly Mike Judge based Butthead off of, because he's a friend of Mike Judge. And this dude who lives in Windsor, Ontario, is the guy.
Honestly, I'm following the story now. Yep, continue.
That Mike Judge based Butthead off of. And this dude had a garden of marijuana in the backyard, and we smoked a joint. And it was like Thanksgiving or Christmas or something. We go back to my grandmother's house, and I'm 14, and I'm fucking red-eyed, baked out of my tree. Yeah. And my grandmother was like hard religious, like, but new because my dad was a huge stoner. And I walk into the kitchen. I'm trying to act normal, which of course means I'm acting like
crazy.
a psychopath. And she's like, "Yeah, I made dinner," and I did chef's kiss, but instead of going like this, I went, and she goes, and she goes,
memory was still right there. You're like.
And she goes, "Nope, I don't think that's what you meant to do." And that'll live with me probably forever.
The chef's fingers brought this out. Really
that is
Yeah.
funny. That is very
Chef's
funny.
fingers.
Oh my god.
But that was the day that I met real life Butthead. When I was 14, I loved Beavis and Butthead, and I couldn't believe it. And to this day, it seems like a lie. But who knows?
Yeah,
It's
Who knows?
rad though.
that sounds
I
like
like it.
that sounds like
This
hot
dude,
dog
I
talk.
remember this dude. He was like,
You're like, I get it. You're
Yeah.
butthead. We're good.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm glad I wrote Chef's Fingers because
chef's fingers. I forgot about that until right now, so now I have to try and implement that into my everyday speech patterns.
That's what
Yeah,
so basically how it came. I'll tell you the story really quick. My friend Shane, he's lovely. He's Irish, and he
Chef's
was,
Fingers.
he was trying to say chef's kiss one day, and he said chef's fingers instead. And his girlfriend Tash is the best human on the planet, and she immediately told all of us, and she was like, "Guess what Shane just did? It was so dumb, and also I love him so much." And now we're like, we need to get this out to the world that chef's fingers is the new way to say
It's
it.
the new way, yeah.
And now it's on the podcast on the internet forever.
So now everyone
thank
will
you,
start saying
Shane.
it. You heard it here first, folks. Chef's fingers
Chef's
replacing
fingers.
chef's kiss.
It's also this now.
2024. Yeah, and this you have to when you go to chef's fingers, you go like this. Chef's
Chef's
fingers.
Fingers.
So
So good. Yeah. Hook and Peter have an epic sword fight.
I love
Hook
the way this is shot
sharp-
too.
Well, we
sharpens
forgot
his
that
own hook.
Rufio fucking dies.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rufio
yeah,
dies,
Rufio gets stabbed.
which is like that's a lot for a kids movie. That's
Yeah.
a lot. He
Especially
got
considering
stabbed right in the heart.
Rufio and Pan just became best friends.
Yeah.
like seconds earlier.
Mhm.
Do we just
and,
become
There
best
can only be
friends?
one.
and it's
Do you want to go
it's
practice
pretty-
karate in the garage?
Yep, pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
And good. He does a good performance. What's his name? Dante or something?
He looks like a Dante. That sounds
He looks
right.
like a Dante. I can see
What
that
is
as well.
what is his name? What is your name, Rufio?
Especially him with like the helmet mohawk. I'm like, that's a Dante. Like Dante's Inferno level Dante.
Dante Bosco, yeah.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah, he's also a really talented voice actor. I know we briefly touched on it at the beginning.
With
but
Avatar.
Tons of stuff. He's in so much stuff.
Yard, it just kicks me out, so I can't do any more googling.
Okay.
You're so blurry for a second. It will probably come back. You look pixelated.
Anyway,
That's
good performance, Dante.
It's
We
coming
love
back.
you.
Yeah, like Rufio was honestly
Real life goals within the next 5 years. I'm going to be working with Dante.
and like the
I mean-
commitment of that kid too. Like even in that like opening scene, I'm gonna like throw it back for a second, where he like just like is in the trees and is like, "I'm Rufio." Like you believe him. He's like really intimidating. And like teenagers are scary. I'm good over here.
Also, I mean, we don't need to go through all of it, but like all of the gadgets and gizmos that these kids are using are hilarious.
Gadgets and gizmos aplenty.
Yeah, who's it's and what's it's.
Gadgets
and
You want thingamabobs?
I got 20.
What is that thing? A fork.
That's
That's the line. She sings
it's
that.
actually not, but
I know.
it is now.
I know every word. to
There's
that
a
song.
college
It's
humor.
my favorite.
There's a college humor sketch from like 2010 that is like if the Little Mermaid was your roommate. and
I've
she
seen
just
that.
doesn't know what anything.
I used to
is.
go to-
And me and
I used to
Madison
go to,
joke about that all the time.
queer karaoke, and I would sing Little Mermaid, but I would sing it in my construction worker voice.
I
I'd be
think
like, "Flipping
I
your
heard
friends,
you
you don't
do
get too far. Legs is required for running, dancing."
You sing
I
it
think
like
you did that
Pumbaa.
once when we were in the village together and there was karaoke night. And I was
Did
like,
I do that? I
yeah,
probably did
I'm
that,
pretty
yeah.
sure. And then right after you did Sinatra, and I was like, this man can do anything.
Dun, 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 dun.
I sing "That's Life." That's my go-to.
That's right.
And I can kill it. I can freaking kill it.
It's true.
And
I am witness. It's Chef's fingers.
Chef Fingers.
Chef's Fingers.
That's a real
The
Chef Fingers
little
quality.
girl says he's a mean old man. The rotting gas of the alligator and Hook gets eaten. That's
She says
basically-
Mm-hmm.
he's just a mean old man who doesn't have a mommy.
Which you're
Yeah.
like, Oh,
it's
so
so
pure.
cute,
What a
yeah.
delight.
And then Captain Hook
basically
gets
just-
eaten by the alligator again.
Yeah, basically just to frame the scene, they sword fight. Hook is like, "You got me," and then Peter's like, "Nah, that's not good enough," and stabs the alligator. And
Well,
then
it's
the
only
alligator,
after Hook goes back on his word. Like he's like ready
Yeah.
to walk away with his kids, and then Hook is like, "Haha, surprise sword! I'll kill you." And he's like, "No,
Yeah.
No.
you gotta
And
go now. You have to."
Basically, Hook is like, kill me. You know, let me die with dignity. And Pan
And
is
he
like,
brings
I'm not
his
gonna kill you.
wig back.
Yeah, he
Oh.
brings him back his hair. And he's like, what would the world be without Captain Hook?
Well, it's epic to show him without
Okay,
the
your
wig.
Dustin is
Finally,
getting very good. Like it was already really good yesterday. It's gotten better.
I'm sure Steve practiced it all day, or didn't.
No, I
and
didn't.
muscle memory just allowed him to do it as well as he's doing it. The alligator falls on him. We were joking about how and I've always
Crocodile,
thought
but
this.
It's a crocodile.
Right, it's a crocodile.
Sorry,
Did I say alligator? Because
yeah.
I was trying to specifically say crocodile and I fucking botched
Okay,
it.
I got you, Jason. We're good.
Deku tree. Deku seeds.
Deku.
But the thing that I always found weird was when it falls on him, he disappears, but the dead the dead stuffed crocodile burps.
Yeah.
And has like gurgling
funny.
digestion sounds.
Definitely possessed. We're back to a horror movie.
Yeah, it's a
What
ghost.
happened?
There's a ghost in there.
It's haunted as fuck.
I always had questions about that. I remember being in the car on the way home and asking, like, what is it alive? Was it alive though? I don't understand. And like my parents are just like, just shut the fuck up. It's a ghost. It's got a
Also,
ghost.
take it a little too literally. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
how my brain works.
Yeah, I'm a
No.
child.
Just real quick, we were trying to we didn't know what the names of all the kids were last night, but there's Pockets, Ace.
Pockets is the kid who gets the. Oh no, he's not. His name is Thudbutt.
The Italian mafioso kid is named Don't Ask. The little kid's Too Small, and then there's Latch Boy. I think Don't Ask for that character.
That is so funny.
So good. Yeah.
Maybe that's.
my God.
I wonder if that was like a thing where like on set people are like, "So what's your name as a lost boy?"
Don't ask.
Like, don't ask.
Oh, you sleep with the fishes.
Good night, Neverland.
Yeah.
Latch Boy kills it again. Yeah.
Pete gives the sword to Thudbutt and flies home. He wakes up with a hangover and does a flip over a fence. He loves his family and everybody's happy. Toodles gets his marbles back and he flies away and the movie ends. Is there anything you wanted to add into that? We are at the 3-hour mark and we still have to.
We talked.
We still have a couple little thingies we got to do before we get out of here. Is there anything you guys want to add?
That it is plot. It is magic. It
magic.
It just watch it. We covered it all.
Steve made a good point though. I would say this movie's more like 4 acts because the final act of this
3
movie,
acts epilogue.
Exactly. It's just a rush to the finish final battle sequence and then just a little bit of feel good Peter Pan. It's a lot like a Christmas Carol where Scrooge learns his lesson, which I love. I love a lesson learning moment. I think that a lot of movies nowadays, there's no clear winner at the end. Everybody loses, a lot of the time.
Or it's almost too up to the audience, which I do like. I like that. And especially in literature and stuff, I'm like, I like making my own conclusion in this. But when it's everything, I'm like, I'm not thinking that hard. I want to have a good time in Neverland. And that's
true. It's a quintessential happy ending is what it is. And it bookends the movie nicely. Yeah, we're back in the real world, and basically reenacting a sequence we saw earlier, just with a completely different Peter and a different attitude altogether. It's really nice.
Yeah. Him throwing his own phone out the window. I'm like, Peter, you got this.
What did I tell you about this window? Always keep it open.
Also, listen to this.
Yeah.
You hear the sound of flying, and the guy we were joking around the guy's like, hello.
Yeah.
I'm on the clock, Peter. We can't do this.
Yeah, you still are gainfully employed by us. We do have clients.
He doesn't care anymore.
No, he's like another bender. He's in England living life. I'll call him on Monday.
Yeah.
We did mention it earlier on. but when he wakes up, it is Smee. It's a very Wizard of Oz moment where he wakes up and doesn't know if it was all a dream or not because the caretaker is Bob Hoskins.
I think that's just Smee spying on him.
Yeah. And that's
well, I mean, that's true. Like Hook was watching him for how many years, being like, I know your family, I know your kids, I know you suck.
Yeah.
And I know exactly the right time to take them.
Maybe he didn't know where he was in the real world, so he always went back to Wendy's house. So he was just waiting for Peter to come back because Peter hasn't been.
He doesn't know
and
the
probably
USA
hearing
exists.
stories about the kids from like Wendy, maybe like talking too loud by a window.
Yeah.
She
does. She always stands by the window and just shouts about her grandchildren.
Maggie Smith would. Honestly,
Maggie
good for her.
Smith for the win.
win.
I think like credits roll on that, and I think we could probably do our Home Alone of it all and just get into these last little moments. And we're doing our longest episode ever at this point.
It's always
What do you think the Home Alone of it all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
Just real quick, my Home Alone of it all is that shot of the hook going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only is it my favorite little like micro moment, but it also is a very good indicator of what's the hook alone of it all. Thank you, Tim. But it is also sort of the pivotal moment that changes from the fantasy or the reality element of this movie fully over to Neverland. Neverland.
Yeah. If I would have probably picked that as well, but now that I can't, I have another one. But I feel like Cass is probably going to pick this one, so maybe I should pick a different one. It's when it's when he walks into the room, when he walks into the bedroom, and the wind is blowing through the curtains, and the Captain Hook theme starts to play. That's when I'm like, okay, the magic is here, Hook is here, the movie has begun. Yeah, that would be mine.
I was actually thinking about that one too, but the other one I was thinking of, and I think this is the closest to my childhood memory of this movie, the moment that always stuck out and the magic was there, is the first fling of the colored mashed potatoes that actually exist.
Oh, okay.
That's really good.
My home
Right. Are they going to say the moment when he pulls his cell phone out for the first time?
And he's like, I'm in the office. Home Alone of it all.
His cell phone. Fantastic. Do you guys want to play a little quick game?
All right. I got time.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the greatest game on Earth. It is, of course, the MPAA rating. Of the rules are simple. I have a 5-digit number which represents the MPAA certificate rating. That MPAA certificate rating is applied to all films that are rated by the MPAA. It denotes that the MPAA rating has been given, whether it be rated R or rated PG, who knows? This movie, of course, is rated probably PG or general.
Maybe.
I think it's a PG, y'all.
Yeah.
And of course, my name is Hook Banning.
Dr. Hook.
Dr. Hook Banning, MD. And the rules are simple. As I said previously, it's a 5-digit number. I'm going to give you the first two numbers for some reason. And all you have to do is give me a number between 0 and 999. First two numbers are 3 1. We're going to go back and forth twice. Cass, what's your guess?
So I'm going to go 723.
Steve, it's lower.
1. No, I'm joking. Obviously. 100.
Cass, it's higher.
All right, I'm going to go 426.
Steve, it is lower.
3, 7, 1.
Oh, God, that's so loud. And so long.
The longest it's ever been.
Why would you choose that as the noise?
I chose it because of the episode of It's Always Sunny where the alarm is just getting to Dennis, and I thought that would be a really good.
I'm gonna go ahead and veto that alarm. I'm
Yeah.
gonna delete it.
You can find a better alarm.
I'm gonna try and find it everywhere on the internet and delete it everywhere.
The number this week is 31538.
So
ridiculous.
Wait, you said lower when Cass said 400.
Yeah. Jason.
You messed it up.
I don't care.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
And now, of course, it is time for our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Just like at the beginning of the show, the guest is chosen to go first. So, Cass, what are your final thoughts? And if you have a rating, whether it be a number rating or just a fun, jokey rating, just give it to us.
Okay, so my final thought is very simple because this movie is just everybody should see this at some point in their lives. My whole takeaway from also watching this as an adult is that I will rue the day I ever lose my childish imagination. I'm so happy that I've had the opportunity to have it as long as I had. I've never lost it. I always see everything in a bit of a colorful way. And it's because of stories like these that have like kept with me over years and years and years. And I never forget to play. So this movie is just an absolute joy, nostalgia and beyond. It is timeless, like you said, Stephen. And I guess if I could rate it, I would rate it a little bit of pixie dust.
Okay. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Oh my god.
That's good.
Sound.
Don't forget the Undertaker dong. Steve, what are your final thoughts? I love it. Steve, what are your final thoughts for the film Hook, starring Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts?
Okay, my thoughts on this movie are that the criticisms that I get, I know are held by those who hold them and believe in their words. But I want to just say I disagree with the people who are so harsh on this movie. For those who just don't get it, I don't really get what you don't get. But it's fair. If you don't like something, you don't like something, and I can't force you to. But I would advise that maybe you give it another chance, because I assume it's probably been a long time since you've seen it, or you just have an opinion that's so strong that you're not willing to look past it and just kind of enjoy the movie for what it is, which is simple, fun, and fantastical. And it's beautiful to look at. The performances are amazing. If there was anything in it that was horrid, I'm just not seeing it, except for maybe that one Tinkerbell scene that could not exist. But even that scene it's not offensive or weird or bad. It just doesn't really need to be there. I love fantasy, and I'm not even like a huge Peter Pan person, like I'm not like I love Peter Pan. I love the Peter Pan TV show or the early movie. Like I like those things when I was a kid, but I still like this a lot as an adult. I'm not going back and rewatching anything else involving Peter Pan because it just doesn't resonate with me. Whereas this has stayed with me since I was 4 years old, and I love it. I think it's great, and that's that. If I had to give it a rating, I forgot about my rating. I would give this a spoonful of rainbow-colored mashed potatoes. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Looky, looky, I got a hooky.
That's really good. I appreciate your final thoughts. I appreciate your final thoughts as well, Cass. My sentiment is the same. But like I kept saying, it really blows my mind that this movie isn't a cultural hit. Like the money is there, the money that it made is there, but critically, I don't get why it was panned so hard. And I do get that there's a lot of like mixed ideas that some people may have seen as sort of like a detriment to the film. But I think like as a whole, even without the nostalgia factor, I think that this movie is thank you, Tim.
I was thinking that too, but I didn't want to
Summed it up
interrupt
perfectly. But I think that it's important that this movie exists because of how it sort of changed the game at the time for a retelling of a classic fairy tale story. It sort of opens the doors for the modern day live action remakes, and those are very hit or miss, but I have enjoyed most of them for the most part. I really liked The Little Mermaid, and I really liked The Lion King. And I know that they're not great movies, but similarly to this, if you have a connection to the story and if you have a connection to those characters, then you're going to like it. Cinematography wise, unbelievable stuff happening in this movie. It feels like I love live theater. This feels like you're watching a live theater production on film. Score wise, come on, John Williams, come on.
Oh, I thought you meant your score.
Individual themes for all of the characters, like the meme of Phil Collins writing the soundtrack for Tarzan. It's Tarzan, right?
Yeah.
He didn't need to do all that. Well, John Williams didn't need to do all that for this movie. The plot and the story, all fantastic. I think it's important. Like, if you have kids, show your kids this movie. They need to get a little dose of the horror elements that we saw as kids. And my rating for this movie is a 4 out of 5. I was pretty staunch on that last night when we were talking about it, and it didn't really waver. I think that it solidified it at a 4. But I also give this movie a middle finger to the critics out of a fist.
There you go.
Which is a bit of a callback.
To this episode.
Callback. And I guess with that, thank you. Cass?
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to plug right now?
Not at the moment. I don't think. There's things happening around, but like I hear about it when it's out. You know how like film stuff is. You're like,
so that project you worked on is still sort of in
I think it did like mini preview, but I think it's on the docket for like this year of festivals. If that makes sense. Like they did like a whole bunch of stuff and now it's like slowly trickling through.
Right. Okay.
But I'll let you know.
Anybody
I
going
saw
to
like a bit of it. It's very cool.
And I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see it as well. From the like stills that I saw. Anybody going to give us a good Lost Boys crow before the sign off?
I'll blow out my mic.
Yeah, I don't know
Even
if
you can do it.
Maybe if I turn down the gain on my mic a lot.
You got this.
There we go.
Bangarang!
Bangarang!
That's pretty good. Hook, it's 4 to 6 suplexes from Old World Mind. Thank you, Murph. Cool. Steve, do you have anything that you want to plug? You got
yeah, actually,
grill?
I'm gonna be on a podcast in about 2 weeks. I don't have the date solidified yet, but it's for a video game called Dominica, where I'm playing the Emperor of the Galaxy and a captain of a spaceship. And I'm just going to be going on there to talk about the characters and the process that I used with recording them and that kind of stuff. So I think probably by next week I'll have more details, but keep an eye out for Dominica, the video game. And then also, if you guys like Star Wars, there is a Star Wars channel called Darth Theorist. Please support the channel because it's really fun to work on. And it's kind of cool. It's a what if channel. What if Jar Jar Binks was from Boston? His name was Jar Jar Binks.
I'm fucking a Jedi over here. Maybe I'm not, or maybe I am over here. Fantastic. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Cass. Cass, it's always great to have you on the show. You're welcome back anytime, obviously. And this episode will be uploaded to your playlist on YouTube as soon as it's up on.
We might be seeing more of you next month.
Fancy. Yeah, I'll see you next month. We'll kick it again.
Let's talk about this off. We all do. All of us want to be part of this thing because Galaxy Quest ruled.
Yeah, I can do a pretty good Alan Rickman impression.
Anytime.
For me, I'd just like to plug that I do a monthly. I'm the announcer for a wrestling promotion here in Toronto called Super Kicked. We have a show on June 21st. It should be very good. This month's episode that just passed was very good. You can also find me on all social media. Hey, did you see this one? That's just our show. Please give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps us out. Thank you for all of the people that hung out tonight on the show. We had a pretty good turnout. We are live now on Instagram and Kick, which Instagram just stays live. Like I don't know what that message I get when I try to connect to Instagram. Anyway,
technology is hard. I get it.
Technology is hard.
I struggled today.
Well, welcome to StreamYard, honey.
We're here. We made it.
Sorry that I said that to you just now.
It's okay.
And I
I'll
think
beat you
with
up.
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna do the final video here just so we can time this out nice. But Cass, there's just one question that we have to ask the audience each and every week. Could you help us out with that?
Yeah. Hey, did you see this one?
This is the fucking part of the show while we make jokes about it.
The show?
We did a show?
Bring me Peter Pan.
Oh fuck, I forgot to press record.
No, Jason. Jail.
Oh dear. Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mario Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.